Welcome to the Roush Performance Esports channel and coverage of the RPE Indy 500, a very special one-night event on iRacing here on the Roush Performance social channels. The month of May is all about going fast. Speeds well past 200 miles an hour, a square oval in Indianapolis, and of course, drinking that sweet milk after 500 miles. I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth tonight is going to be Jack Roush Jr., as well as iRacing Indy 500 announcer Joe Peak. We've also got Eddie Smith behind the scenes as our producer, making this stream look top-notch, and Trent Brown in race control, making sure everybody acts on their best behavior. Well, Jack, this is the first time that RPE has gone open wheel. I'm thrilled to bring this event to the Roush channels, and are you excited to see this one?
Oh, yeah. Joey, you and I had the chance to race at Indianapolis. It's an awesome track, tons of history. To recreate the Indy 500 it's going to be a great show.
It's going to be awesome watching these IR18 Indy cars go around this 2.5 mile oval. And Joe Peak, of course, the voice of the iRacing official Fixed 500 back there a couple weeks ago. Glad to have you joining us.
I wouldn't want to be any other place. Indy's special to me, so getting to call another one of these and see these drivers try to go for the yard of bricks is just the best thing in the world.
It's a pretty special place, and speaking of the yard of bricks, I actually think that we've got our official track map pulled up, located right here in the heart of Indiana, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You see 4 square turns around this facility and a minimal amount of banking because these Indy cars haul the mail around this place. Like I said, speeds well over 200 miles an hour. Lap times, at least in the qualifyings, was just a tick under 40, about 39 seconds. And then in race pace, they'll be doing about 40 to 41 seconds out there in terms of those lap times. So that's what this venue is all about, but we also have this Dallara IR18 Indy car. It is quite a special car, and Joe, this is basically the top of Formula racing, at least here in North America.
Exactly. It has been since pretty much motor racing started. At first called Champ Cars and eventually earning the moniker Indy Cars because of this place. It is a very powerful, very high downforce machine, but this is where it really, truly shines at this track, where you start to trim it out and show just how fast they are.
Yeah, and speaking of trimmed out, we're basically going to see how fast everybody is going to be going out here. This is a fixed setup race, so everybody is on, call it a spec race car. Jack, we've kind of gone back and forth between open setup and fixed setup, and actually this is our race details here in the bottom left. I mentioned 200 laps, 500 miles, our standard pit road speed of 60 miles an hour. The pit window between 30 and 34 laps, that's what you're going to be doing, running by yourself out there. As you can see, you can fuel save around here, and if we do have lots of green flag racing, drivers are, in fact, going to be doing that fuel save. No fast repair. So if you hit a wall or you hit your competitor, you're pretty much out of this thing. You got to take care of your equipment out there. And then, of course, we have race control. I mentioned Trent Brown over there in race control. He is going to be making sure everybody stays running smoothly out there. No unnecessary yellow flags at all. But Jack, I was going to ask you, Indy cars, have you actually messed around with the IR18 at all in the sim before?
I have not. I've really been focused on practicing with sports cars, but I'm really excited about this. It's I don't know, something I'm pretty proud of, Joey, and you've been here since the beginning. With our esports stuff, we're trying to mix up the formula and keep it exciting. And what could be more exciting than the Indy 500?
Yeah, we haven't ever done any open wheel stuff on this channel, so this should be pretty exciting. And we just have the single pace lap here as our Ford Mustang GT pace car rolls around this 2.5 mile square oval. Get a good shot of our grid here. And speaking of our grid, let's go ahead and read through it. So we did have qualifiers a little bit earlier a few days ago, and it was Alex Crow that put down the fastest time, so he earned that pole position in the number 990. Blake Reynolds is going to be joined up along next to him on row number 1, starting in second. James Thurston, that's the Roundy Round Series multiple race winner back there. He is going to be starting in third position with, of course, the Roundy Round Series champion claiming that number 1 board in fourth. Aiden Walker, a top split Indy 500 winner, in fifth. Presley Sora in sixth. Lucas Lodato starting in seventh. Paul Gibson, eighth. Jeff McConey back here starting in ninth. Keith Jeffrey in 10th. Then we also have Cam Bidwell across the page here in the 11th place position. Devin Smirker in 12th. Joseph Mealy in 13th. Connor Parise in 14th, with Nikhil Kopkar starting in the 15th place position. Rick Raven in 16th, with Matt Brewer in 17th. Kyle Gretsch in 18th, with Justin Knutson in 19th, and Trey Patton rounding out our top 20. Got Charlie Hosey in 21st, with Zach Palmatier in 22nd. Robert Kanchin in 23rd. Corey Vervinkt 24th, and two more, Alex Ellis and Peachy Campos, on the front straightaway here, rounding out our 26 cars. And just like that, guys, we are already going racing. The green flag is out for the first ever RPE Indy 500 event, and the field goes storming down into turn number 1, accelerates their way past 200 miles an hour in the exit of turn number 2. Joe Peak, 210 miles an hour and climbing.
And this is and always has been an endurance event, so drivers do have to be careful here at the start. This is always one of the most dangerous times, but we're staying too wide for much of the field here, all the way down into 3 and 4. So this fixed setup is really keeping things even.
It is a fixed setup, and of course, iRacing has put in a ton of time. Who is going to lead lap number 1? I think it is actually going to be Alex Crowe, just by about 100th of a second there on the outside. He is in that blue and black number 990s. You see James Thurston. He won 4 out of our 5 RFK Roundy Round Series events, and he is sitting now in the overall lead in that white, red, and black machine. That's Aiden Walker now sitting in third place. Well, Jack, did you catch your breath after that first lap?
I'm trying to. Yeah, it's pretty intense, man. Just the physics of these cars is amazing, well beyond what our old sports cars could do. Man, the speed with which these are going around these turns, and the fact that there hasn't been any bumping that I've seen, is pretty impressive.
For the most part, these drivers are going to have to keep it clean, and I've got to catch my breath over here, remind myself that this is 200 laps that these drivers still have to go out there and navigate. So the action, I think, is going to be thick and fast out here, but it is going to have to go on for quite some time, another 470 some odd miles, or however much the math is. I got the engineer over in race control. I'll probably have to borrow his calculator in a little bit, but action is going to stay good out front, and right now they're just kind of settling into a little bit of a rhythm, a little bit of some 3 wide here to start lap number 4 at Indianapolis, and that's Lucas Lodato moving their way up towards the front. And Joe, I got to ask you, how aggressive in that fixed 500 iRacing official event was it early on?
It wasn't very aggressive. I mean, when you get to that top split, everybody kind of knows the deal. So we did see some swapping back and forth up at the front, but then it really started to settle in and did what you were talking about earlier. You saw a lot of fuel mileage racing, drivers trying to stay in the slipstream and just try to use that to extend the stint. And I expect the smart drivers are going to be doing that, but we've got a couple up front already switching back and forth. In fact, talking about aggressive, Lodato up from 7th to the lead, or at least swapping back and forth in the lead. We're only on lap 5.
And that name does sound familiar. That's another iRacing fixed top splitter, Lucas Lodato. I remember that, so he definitely knows how to get around this place. And here comes Alex, just using that slipstream right on back. And so, Jack, I'm going to bring you in here because even in sports car racing, we're told to fuel save. Here at Indianapolis, it's not necessarily easy, but you do have the slipstream to kind of pull you up along if you got somebody in front of you, and fuel save is going to be a big part of this race.
Oh yeah, that is a very good point. You're probably smarter than I am, Joey. When I've been racing, it's pretty hard to modulate your throttle to save gas unless you're under yellow. It takes a lot of self-control, but yeah, you're right. You know, using the draft to help with that certainly, I think, would work.
Well, I'm definitely not smarter than you, Jack. I will take the compliment. And yes, it can be difficult, and I think that it goes to kind of each driver's skill level and their comfort factor in the car. Now, we keep saying that this is a fixed race, but you can still adjust a few little things inside these cars, Joe Peak, and you can adjust the sway bars, you can adjust the weight jacker, and of course, you can adjust the brake bias, but you shouldn't be using that around here.
No, no. Only times you should need the brakes is hopefully when you're coming into pit lane, and maybe if we have caution to slow the car up. And yeah, oh, things are really feisty here in this front group. That is Matt Brewer going from third to first down the back straightaway and almost trying to box in Alex Crow there, who had a good run on Lodato. You got to be really careful about that. One thing about sim racing is not everybody has the awareness or the quickness when they're where the cars are relative to you around them, or necessarily a VR headset or triple screen. So if you're going to box someone in, you have to have a lot of trust that they're going to be aware that you're down there.
That's actually a good point to talk to Jack a little bit about because you've got such a great awareness when you're inside that race car. But when you're inside the simulator, you've really only got that monitor in front of you. Do you kind of feel that same way that you can kind of get a little bit lost with other cars and where they are?
Oh, absolutely. Even outside of that, just what your car is doing. I don't know if you felt like this, Joey, but when I've been driving sports cars, sometimes you have to do other things like get a drink bottle or hit a radio or look at the dash. You actually, even though you're not looking at the road, you can tell what your car is doing by the G forces on your body, and you get pretty attuned to that. Put yourself in a simulator and all of that's taken away. And when I use a simulator, I think it's great practice, but you don't have that same sense of G forces, where you are relative to, or how your body is moving around. Add to that cars around you and your awareness and perception of speed and space. It does make it more challenging, I think.
It just adds to that level that each one of these drivers really has to kind of prep for and be aware over 500 miles, which isn't always easy. And then you kind of, at least for me, I can get distracted in this simulator, Joe. I don't know how you are, but I know at least in the race car, I'm solely focused out the visor, if you will. In the sim room, you got the doggies hanging out. They're always trying to be a distraction over here. There's other things going on.
Yeah, in the past, I have had to shut my door just so if I know it's something where I really need to focus so that my dogs don't try and come up and nudge my arms when I'm trying to really get those precise inputs in there as we ride on board with Crow now here in third. And honestly, I mean, if you ever needed precise inputs, this is the track where it is very much needed. It looks so simple on paper, and those not familiar with this style of racing might say, well, they're just foot to the floor and around this track. It's like, yeah, but you're also going 220 miles an hour around 24 other cars on track. So, like we keep saying, you got to keep your wits about you and have awareness of what is going on. And at the same time, you're trying to bring it within inches of the walls and the apron.
You mentioned small adjustments. Now, I've been watching, of course, Indy 500 qualifying, Indy 500 practice all week long. And I believe the guys in the booth over there, James and Townsend, were saying micro adjustments. It is micro adjustments that you have to do inside the car in order to keep this thing going around this place. And you have to have such an excellent feel to really be able to keep the car on the rails out there and be able to perform at that super high level. Unfortunately, I think we did see our first retirement of the day this previous lap. It was just a single car incident, and I think it was Alex Ellis getting up into the wall. I think maybe the 58 of Zach Palmetier maybe had a little bit of contact. So if we watch this red and blue car just up a little bit high in turn number one there, Joe, and had a little bit of contact, but unfortunately, Indianapolis is very unforgiving.
And the more laps that go by, the less desirable that high line is going to be. We saw, a lot of them able to go too wide at the start. but the more drivers start to just throw marbles out on outside of the racing line in these corners, the harder it's going to be to try and get up around someone. I have seen it this year actually quite a bit. There's a number of drivers that have been able to really hold the momentum on the high line, so it's possible. But again, it gets very risky because the further into the race, the less grip there's going to be.
It's always that balancing act. The bars, you can always soften up those front bars, try to get as much front end grip as you can throughout the thing. And then you can also stiffen up those rear bars, try to get the rear end to help turn throughout the corner. You can also start playing around a little bit with that weight jacker, try to get the car to kind of help turn itself, essentially adding spring rate to the right rear to perch that thing up a little bit. If you think about the right rear helping turn the car, it's essentially going to rotate the front end around the corner there. So that's exactly what the drivers want. But you also have to manage that balance of what is too much turn or too little turn. Usually you do not want a loose condition car here at Indianapolis, because trying to catch those slides at 200 plus miles an hour. I mean, Jack, I don't know if you've seen some of the replays from Indianapolis this week. Anytime you get loose at 220 miles an hour, it usually ends in the wall.
Yeah, I think that would sound pretty bad. So, yeah, not surprising.
Well, we are just chugging along laps here, clicking through lap number 15 and onto lap number 16 here of our first RPE Indy 500 event. This is a familiar face here, Blake Reynolds. Jack, now, if you remember, Blake was competing in some of our sports car programs, some of our sports car series as well. Always coming and competing here on the channel, and here he is sitting in 7th place right now, just sitting in the draft train.
Yeah, it is really cool to see Blake and, all the other familiar names join us for so many of these races. I enjoy it. I'm sure you do, Joey, and it's cool to see other people being excited too.
I always love getting everybody back to play on the playground. I always try to keep the RPE gates open. We do a bunch of different style of events. Jack, you'd kind of mentioned it. We play around in off-road stuff. We do a lot of road racing, sports car racing, and then of course we've got our partnership there with RFK Racing, and like to do some roundy round series events, some holiday special events down there. But we always try to like to keep things varied up and keep everybody entertained over here. I was going through the order. I think I see Connor Parise, unfortunately, hit a retirement as well. He was just one of our off-road champions. So Joe Peak, not only oval series stuff, but lots of different racing here on this channel.
Exactly, and I do love that the drivers are willing to dip their toes into what is admittedly a rather niche side of racing. Open wheelers often sees drivers, dedicate themselves from very early on to trying to race in this category, and that's all they race usually. So hopping into them is a pretty difficult task, and so far they're doing pretty well with it. Although I do know a number of them race regularly this style of racing. Lucas Lodato, for instance, you mentioned him running in the fixed 500. He also regularly races in the Lotus 79s in the official racing.
Ah, that's right. He does go over there and race that. I knew that name was a little bit more familiar than just these past couple weeks here. So something that's really cool to see right now. We had a 26 car entry field out here. Right now we've had 2 retirements just from, unfortunately, Connor got a couple laps down and then retired. I was going to try to get him back on the lead lap if we had an early yellow. And then Alex, unfortunately, met the wall a handful of laps ago. But I'm seeing 21 cars. Joe, is that what you see? 21 cars in this lead draft train?
It looks like it, yeah. I actually have 20, I think, because it looks like Paul Mateer is just about ready to drop off the back of it. He's almost a full second away. And what's interesting about all that is that it seems this setup is honestly very, very draft heavy. Drivers unable to really pull away from one another out there. So just holding with that main group going to be extremely critical.
And I think that they're just kind of minding their P's and Q's out there right now. We do have the Iron Hand of Justice, aka Race Control, that's sitting over here overwatching everybody. I did make mention that we're going to try to limit our yellow flags here. Now, on the East Coast, it's relatively late out here. It's coming up to be about 8:30 p.m. and starting a 500-mile race at 8 p.m. Eastern. Just want to make sure everything keeps moving and we're not still live at call it 2 a.m. out there, keeping everybody up on a work day. So I'm going to keep everything moving down to about 2 yellows per 50 laps. But as you see with this field, I don't even think we're going to reach that sort of limit out here. So very high strength of field. Got some serious pros in here. And I think the racing should kind of reflect that, Joe.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers now, and there's some pretty good hitters up at the top. That is for sure. And I think they'll give us a good run for their money. And I do like what I'm seeing, honestly, at this stage of the race. I don't want to see drivers constantly chopping and making risky moves. We've had a few of them, but yeah, they're all settling in. They're just playing nice at this stage. You're going to see some give and take out there, as you see Sora getting a position as well, coming up into fifth here. So the 98 getting another spot down there in turn 3. Again, a big part of Indy is just you got to be there at the end. So survive these first 180 laps, set yourself up for the last 20.
And Jack, let's get your thoughts on that because, I mean, your dad would always say you can't win in turn number 1. And 500 miles is a long time to go.
Oh, absolutely. I think I know his saying has always been to finish first, you must first finish. Very true.
And what's that like if you're a driver right now? Let's just say you're on lap number 23. You know you've got a long ways to go, but you still want to go fast and work your way forward. Do you maybe have a plan that you set out pre-race that you say, okay, this is how aggressive I'm going to be, or this is how calm I'm going to be?
Uh, I'm not that smart when I put on a helmet. It's
You
more
don't give
about
yourself enough credit, Jack.
no. When you get out, I've always found, when a race starts, a real life race, you will think about strategy to some extent, but at another point, you're also just trying to go as fast as you can, but not trying to burn things up. Quite a bit. I remember our crew chief coming on the radio and telling us to slow down, like you gotta be careful, you need gas or, make sure your tires are good. So.
Well, and I think that's actually a perfect point because in the real world, we have that crew chief, right? They have all of that information on the pit box. Oh, no, looks like we've got an incident coming out of turn number 2. I think that's going to bring out our first yellow flag of the night. That is Nikhil Kopkar involved in multiple cars. I think I saw one bouncing on its lid going down the back straightaway here. And Rick, oh no. We got rivals from another league involving themselves here in the RPE Indy 500 event. Looks like Nikhil got loose up out of turn number 2, and then everybody else kind of took avoiding action, and there was actually several cars involved here. Let's see what happened. Joe, did you get a good look at this?
Yeah, there is a whole lot of cars. Looks like maybe a bit of ghost contact. Hard to see if they actually touched. From there, because it's become pack racing with this setup, there's just no time to respond. So that's why you see so many collected.
Yeah, it's funny.
Go ahead.
When you see crashes happen with Indy cars, these cars the physics are so amazing, but that allows them to go really fast, but when things go wrong, it goes wrong really fast too.
Let's see what happened to Rick. Oh, I feel for Rick here. He was trying to make a pass down low in 2, and everything kind of unfolded in front of him, and that other car kind of came down the racetrack too, from what I saw. Really unfortunate for that number 7. I think I see Paul Gibson also involves Zach Palmatier. So looks like Nikhil pretty much took out the entire PG-13 racing contingent on this one.
Sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. And I will say that Robert Kanchan did a good job here sneaking through it all. Had enough time to try and just lift a little bit. A few cars actually blew by him, and I think wound up catching quite a bit of it. But I mean, that's just a perfect example of why you really got to be on top of things. Is now we got pit stops, and I think it's everybody in.
It was kind of conveniently coming up to the end of that first fuel window. Oh no, I see somebody slide through their pit stall though, and going to have to back it up. And we are going to take a quick break while we're still under full course yellow here and be right back with more green flag action on the channel. Welcome back to Roush Performance Esports. We are here with the first ever RPE Indy 500 event. I'm joined by Jack Roush Jr. and Joe Peak in the booth. Got Eddie Smith producing and Trent Brown acting as race control. And Jack, I want to get your thoughts here because we are going back to racing. We're on the back straightaway here, but we've had our first, call it 25 laps of the race, and it seemed pretty hectic and fast.
Yeah, I was really impressed with not only the speed and closeness, but the fact that there was no contact for quite some time. And then, unfortunately, it's racing, and this is going to happen.
When it happens at 200 plus miles an hour, it usually happens relatively quickly. So we've got a couple big movers so far, including our second place runner of Matt Brewer. He's up 15 positions, but as you can see, the lights on that Ford Mustang are out, which means we are going back racing here at Indianapolis. Lucas is standing on the gas. Barney's got the green flag in hand, and we are racing back off to turn number 1. I see 190 miles an hour as they are accelerating up through 5th gear. Click it up into 6th, probably somewhere around turn number 2 right here. And Matt Brewer already passing for the lead, Joe.
Yep. So he doesn't want to sit and try and save fuel. He wants to be the person on the point. And generally that does kind of help you stay out of trouble. Now, you can still wind up causing trouble if you don't hit your marks out there, but at least it's all in your hands from there, at least until you get into traffic. So I can understand drivers maybe wanting to do that. Since we do have some unknowns, there might be those who don't feel like they know their competitors well enough to just trust that they could sit in the middle of the pack.
And speaking of competitors, that last yellow flag definitely took out a handful of them. I see Kyle Gretsch affected, Nikhil Kopkar, Zach Palmatier, Paul Gibson, and Rick Raven. So it's about a handful of cars taken out a little early from this RPE Indy 500 event, but it lined up quite nicely with the end of their fuel stint. Now, the cars can usually do about 30 to 34 laps on fuel. And obviously, we are clicking over to lap number 31 right now. So everybody took that opportunity to come down pit road and fill it up with fuel, get 4 brand new tires out there, and get back going here at Indianapolis. Couple big movers I had mentioned. Matt Brewer, plus 16 positions. He actually leads the race right now. I think the only other PG-13 racing driver out there, Cam Bidwell, he is up into 7th. He's up 4 positions. Nice run for Cam so far. Another good one that I see, Charlie Hosey in the number 100 car, up 10 positions. Sitting right here trying to get by Jeff McConey, crack it up into the top 10. And then Joe, the other big mover that I see, a buddy of ours, Corey Vervinkt.
Indeed, Corey, with ties to the racetrack. I think it was his father-in-law.
That's right.
That works there. But yeah, we've known Corey for a few years now, and he is going to try and do his heritage proud, if you will, here in the race. Right now, just kind of sitting in the middle of the group, about 14th, while he waits for the race probably to come to him a little bit.
Come up off of what is turn number 3 here at the Speedway, riding on board. Jack, what do you think about his setup over there? I am the Stig, and he's even got the white helmet on the cabinet.
Oh, that is so funny. Oh, we should, I don't know if we can do it tonight, but it would be really cool to show his video that he did for us a few years ago.
No, Corey is awesome with everything that he does with iRacing, and of course part of that iRacing official team. So he worked with us on the media and broadcast side for a long time, and look at how close the racing is, directly in front of Corey. That's actually Justin Knutson as well as Blake Reynolds. Blake is in that red and black car, trying to work his way back up towards the front. Something happened to Blake because he was actually sitting firmly inside of the top 10, and now he's slipped all the way back to 12th. Corey making an aggressive move into turn number 1 here, Joe Peak, but he's making it stick.
Yeah, I was a little worried that he might take that momentum into the back of Blake's car there, but thankfully he was heads up on that situation. And let's see if they're not done with it, because they do have Aaron Smith and Charles Hosey just in front of them. And Smith, not liking that low, shallow line, drops off the pace. Corey is going to get him on the high side.
And Jack, do you remember that name, Aaron Smith? He competed recently in our Roundy Round series. He was that bright yellow car that ended up taking the championship based off of the consistency. And one of the things about his driving style is that he would always kind of lay back at the beginning of his green flag runs, almost conserve those tires, let the long run come to him.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely an impressive run in the Roundy Round series. And yeah, it's awesome to see him out here tonight.
Carrying that number 1 board, because he was the champion in that Roundy Round series with RFK Racing. That was Roush Performance Esports' first oval championship. We've done a couple oval events, but that was our first oval championship, and Aaron Smith was able to take the victory in those NASCAR next-gen cars. So pretty cool to see him out here now in the Dallara IR18 cars. And whoo, things are getting a little spicy up front here. I believe this is Alex Crow and then also Cam Bidwell, Keith Jeffrey in a battle.
Yeah, Alex did not like being pushed back down the order here. Remember, he was up at the front at the start of that first stint, and probably wants to go back to where he can kind of lead the way and be in some more clear air. That'll get him up to 5th at least. Next on his list is going to be Aiden Walker, looks like.
And, with the pack racing, I think, Jack, it was actually your dad that I picked up this phrase from. There's always a super speedway tax, right? It doesn't matter if you're running in the middle of the pack or running in the back of the pack. There's always a tax that's going to be paid at the super speedway eventually. I think one of the only ways to avoid it is maybe track position and being up front.
Yeah, that's very true. In NASCAR, you pay the price for super speedways quite a bit.
And if you get caught up into it, there's usually not much escaping out here. So that was a battle, I believe, between Aiden Walker, Alex Crow back here for what was, call it fourth place on the racetrack. I think Alex finally got that fourth place position. I got to give some serious props to Aiden Walker. And Joe, you'll probably like this livery if we get a good shot of it on the number 93. Very reminiscent of the old school Lotus 49 and Lotus 79 design, but kind of adapted to the IR18 car.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. And Lotus does have history here at the track. Colin Chapman bringing his drivers over and actually taking a couple wins in the process. So he's not just good at turning left and right, but he's good at the circle track stuff as he developed cars for that for a brief while before focusing once again on Formula One. Right now, Aiden Walker is kind of dropping backwards because here comes McConey around the outside, making him look like he's standing still.
Nice move there. I'm pretty impressed to see Jeff McConey rocket his way up towards the front of the field. Now, Jeff obviously extremely skilled on the oval side of things, does dabble in the IndyCar stuff. And Joe, I'm not sure if you follow his social medias or follow him in the real world, but something that I really think is neat that Jeff is doing, he's finally breaking into real world racing. He's been going around and doing some local ARCA Series events, and I think he's actually going to do his official ARCA Series first race later this year.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's always a good feeling getting to make that breakthrough and start to get your toes into real world commentary. There's just nothing quite like getting to the track and getting to see those cars go by you inside the booth. Right now, he's trying to go by Alex Crow. He's caught up to him already.
Well, and not only that, but just kind of that sim to reality. We always talk about the crossover of paddocks. And Joe, you and I are kind of spoiled in the sense, a little bit of contact back there. I think that orange car maybe got into the wall. Hopefully not any damage, but that was Charles Hosey, I believe. So hopefully no damage there. Looks like he's able to navigate through turn number 1. But kind of back to my point, we're a little bit spoiled that we get to travel around to a lot of different racetracks and cover a lot of different racing this year, but not everybody in the sim racing community gets to be able to do that. So in the case of Jeff McConey, it's really cool to see him start in sim racing and essentially living out his dream of becoming an actual race car driver.
That's the one thing I really love about what sim racing does is he's getting some side-by-side here with Alex Crow, getting very close to making contact with him. But yeah, sim racing basically gives almost a gateway these days for those of us that just love racing and have always wanted to be a part of it. You can find ways, whether it's trying to work your way up into driving, the engineering aspect of it. There's even painters, graphic design. There's ways to get in through there now. And then, of course, through commentary like we have. So, yeah, it started out as, kind of seeming more as just any other video game. But nowadays, it is very much, this is your first step if you want to start to get into racing.
And then, Jack, we have the complete other side of things, going from the real-world racing into the sim and using it as practice. But it's actually gone well beyond that. I think that JP now is actually involved with a sim racing team just even within his school over there. So it kind of goes both ways, from the real-world paddock into sim racing and from sim racing now into the real-world stuff.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's an very critical tool. Back in 2005, when I was first starting to get into sports cars, I came from go-karts and immediately went directly into Grand Am, which, as you have some of the best road racers in the world, and the learning curve is very steep. And one of the things I did to try to help with that was to get iRacing and to practice a ton in there, and I think it really helped. It's a lot of racers, real life racers, old school guys don't like the simulator. It is challenging. You don't have the same sensation that you do in a real car, but I honestly, to be competitive now, I think you have to use the simulator. If you don't, I think you're at a disadvantage.
Well, and since this is a 500-mile race here, Jack, we can ramble a little bit about that. Let's talk about your simulator experience. When you hop in the sim, let's say we're going to Watkins Glen in the GT4 car. Do you hop in there a week before? Do you hop in there a month before? What kind of laps do you like to do in preparation?
Uh, you know, for so many years, I had never even competed in iRacing, even though I had used it religiously. It was only during the pandemic that I started to compete in it. What I have done to prepare for real racing is to go in, you know, a week before is, you know, each time is different, based on how busy I've been, other travel. But ideally, you want to have, just like time on track, you want to have those iterations of practice. And that takes time, it takes days. The more you practice, the better you're going to be.
It's all in seat time, right? And Joe Pica, I think you can attest to that. You cover enough top level esports that um, these drivers are putting in a ton of laps, and the only way to get better is more practice.
I mean, practice is what it's all about in every sport that you're involved in, and that's where sim racing democratizes that because you don't have to pay for that set of tires or all that fuel or that track time. You get out there and you put that practice in, and like you said, those who put the effort in often get the results out of it.
And speaking of putting in the effort, we've been kind of watching them go up towards the front. This has become a battle between Matt Brewer and Jeff McConey. So Jeff was competing back there a couple weeks ago in those fixed Indy 500s. Didn't quite make the top split with the qualifying, but here he is on the broadcast race here on the RPE channel, making the most of it, actually leading that lap. He's on the outside right here, trying to push the issue into turn number one. You can run too wide pretty comfortably here at Indianapolis as long as there's cooperation. But Joe, as soon as that car, either on the inside or outside, starts to push the issue, that's kind of when things get a little bit more nervous.
Yeah, and with open wheelers, you always have to leave a little bit more space with each other because when those wheels touch, it's not like banging fenders in NASCAR. These things will tend to really get disrupted. Sometimes they can be flicked into the air if the two tires touch in the right way. So you got to be oh so careful. And of course, there's always the dreaded, tangling the wheels, just interlocking them with one another, and that's really bad news.
One thing that is beneficial for everybody running behind, and I'm talking about third through 18th right here, is our draft pack. With these front two cars running side by side, they are creating a mega draft behind them. So if you are looking to fuel save, right now is your opportunity. And since we're coming up to lap number 50, coming around what is turn number 4 here at IMS, let's go ahead and take some time, ride on board with some of these beautiful Dallara IR18 Indy cars. we are back live here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway virtually with the RPE Indy 500 event. Of course, that stands for Roush Performance Esports, our very, very first open wheel event. And Jack, it is an honor to have these Indy cars out here. Like I said, our first true Formula car. We're about a quarter of the way through this one. What have been your thoughts so far?
I think it's been a great show. These cars. I can't believe we haven't used Indy cars in our esports before. I think it's going to have to come back. When and how, we don't know yet, but I think it's pretty killer.
Well, everybody heard it. He said it. We are going to have to bring the Indy cars back to the channel at some point. So I think the month of May sounds fantastic for more IndyCar racing. Everybody loves doing 200 miles an hour out here, and that's exactly what we're doing. About 223 into turn number one. I think that's what I saw out here, Joe, but our two leaders have just been stuck side by side. Everybody behind, I'm sure, is loving it.
Yeah, Brewer and McConey have been unrelenting in this back and forth battle. And I think it's Thurston and Walker that are sitting in the pound seat right now. They have just been hanging out, watching, probably doing a lot of lifting because, you've got too wide breaking the air for you in front of you. So he's got a huge draft, or sucking up their own fuel because there goes Brewer into pit lane.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an early stop. Lap number 29 for Matt Brewer to come down and do a green flag stop. So this is the first pit stop cycle that we have seen under green flag conditions. We'll see how he's able to handle this. Was able to stop in the box. Nice. Didn't slide your way through it. That is one thing that I always say is don't beat yourself out there on the racetrack. Jack, it is so easy to fall into some easy pitfall mistakes when you don't always practice. Let's say coming into pit road, you're always focused on doing a fast lap. Sometimes you forget the easy stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just watching the cars come down into pit lane, that was exactly what was on my mind is, what are their marks? What is the speed limit? You have to have all of that planned out ahead of time and be very familiar.
And it's not always easy when you're doing 220 miles an hour, like I said, to jump on the brakes. Joe, I actually got to ask you, have you been in the IR18 at all here in the month of May?
Not this year. I've been a bit busy throughout May, which I won't complain about because I get to be around racing. But I've had to call the cars more than I've gotten to actually get in the car. And admittedly, I've never been very good at the Indy car driving it.
Well, actually, you know what? We do have somebody who's in the booth here that has quite a bit of Dallara IR18 experience. He actually just raced a 300-miler last night. Trent Brown, you got us on audio comms?
I got you.
So I was going to ask, what is it like jumping on the brakes under those green flag conditions? The brakes aren't always warm in these cars when you need them.
Correct. And depending on where your weight jacker is, you could be in for a long lockup on the right front.
Oh, that's an interesting point there. So the more you crank in that weight jacker, it essentially affects the braking out there. That's an interesting point.
You can actually get really. Oh, it looks like we're going caution here.
Oh, huge wreck, and I believe this is turn number 2. Good catch from race control. I think Cam Bidwell. Oh no, so unfortunate. The number 56 car involved, and also Corey Vervinkt. Oh no, Cam might get banned out of this one. Let's see what the replay is going to show us here. So Corey is in the blue, white, and red car. Cam has got this real fancy gold paint job. He's going to be a couple cars in front, it looks like.
Yeah, I think we'll say. Oh, okay. So Corey just kind of slapped the wall there. I thought initially I didn't notice that there was contact when I was watching it on my screen. But I can't blame Charles much for that one because, again, everything happened so fast that he couldn't check up in time, and that's why he turned Corey around, and then Cameron also a real innocent victim in this one.
Yeah, so unfortunate to see El Tigre, as we know him, Cam Bidwell, get taken out of this one, and that's going to eliminate another handful of cars. Jack, I know that we are limited on time with you, so we're going to take a break from the channel, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and being a part of the broadcast booth here with us.
Oh, well, thank you, Joey. Thanks for everyone here in the booth and the competitors and the audience out there watching. It's an awesome event to recreate, and I hope everyone's enjoying it.
Well, with that, we will be right back with more green flag action on the channel.
Team Roush is out here in Uvalde, Texas with Continental Tire at their proving grounds. Awesome facility. We've had a lot of fun today testing. We've got our S650 here with all of our performance parts installed on it, and we can't wait to show you guys what we've been up to.
Not only are we doing tire testing today, we've also been doing 0 to 60, quarter mile time, lateral acceleration, wet and dry handling. And we also have this vehicle outfitted with our Phase 2 supercharger system, our air induction system, exhaust upgrades, as well as suspension.
We've been having a lot of fun, even in this 95-degree-plus weather. But before we show you all that awesome footage, I wanted to get a little bit more specific into the car. And Chad, if you could you tell us a little bit about this Phase 2 supercharger?
Yeah, so this is our 2024 Phase 2 supercharger kit. This is the launch edition, and the Phase 2 standard edition is available now on the website. It has dual intercoolers, dual throttle bodies, so it retains that iconic 2024 Mustang look. It's got our air induction system on it, an oversized LTR for superior cooling, and like you said, it's 95-degree weather. We've already proven that it can run a fast time in the drag strip, and we're here doing multiple passes to prove it can do it back to back. Like I mentioned before, this is our air induction system for the 24 Mustang. Not only is this for a supercharged vehicle, if you have a naturally aspirated car, you can purchase these, and then whenever you do upgrade to a supercharger, you don't have to repurchase them. They'll be compatible. Also, something to highlight on these is obviously you can see the clear window. That's nice to see the bright red filters. And we also have 2 high flow, washable, reusable air filters. That way you don't have to keep buying paper filters like the factory ones.
All right, so not only do we have powertrain upgrades up front, but we also have this awesome exhaust system out back here. This is our active kit with valves that you can open and close and customize the sound how you want. This one's also paired with our mid-pipe, X-pipe, but that's not the only configuration you can have. We've got an H-pipe, we've got axle backs, and we've got full catback systems that you can choose from. So we really give you the opportunity to give your Mustang the personality you're looking for. All right, now that we've covered all the performance upgrades on this vehicle, I want to give Marco from Continental a chance to tell us a little bit about tires and getting the performance to the pavement. Thanks for joining us, Marco.
So my name is Marco Robello. I work for Continental Tire, and we have a long history with Roush. We started with our Extreme Contact Sport back then on a Mustang development, and the tire was tailor fitted for that vehicle. Now we have the second generation of this product, which is the Extreme Contact Sport 02, ECS 02, as many of you know them. Taking in consideration all the horsepower this beast of a Roush Mustang makes, we needed to take some development strategy on the Extreme Contact Sport 02 that I'm going to show you some of the details that we have on this tire actually. So one of the main details, as you know, this car is a perfect streetable car, but you can take it to the track and beat anybody out there probably. So it's the macro blocks that we have on the outside. When you are turning, you want all that contact patch and the maximum amount of rubber to hit that ground. The segment we like to place this tire under is a street tire that you can take to a track. So when you have a car like this, maybe you want to take it on a Sunday drive, daily drive it, but also take it to the track every now and then. That's the perfect tire for you. It's comfortable on the road. It has great amount of grips, probably one of the best ultra high performance tires that you can find out there.
Cool, thanks Marco. So as we were talking about before, tire and suspension are critical to getting that performance down to the pavement. So we've already talked about this awesome tire technology from Continental, but now we need to talk a little bit more about the suspension as shown on this vehicle. So Chad, could you walk us through what the suspension is?
Yeah, so for S650, we have a single adjustable coilover available, or if your vehicle has magnetized suspension like this one, we have a lowering spring kit, which lowers it an additional 30 millimeters and also keeps that center of gravity low to maintain not only street quality, but also at the track. which really ties it all together.
So since 1976 at Roush, we've been enthusiasts first, and we can't wait to continue offering these performance upgrades for S650 owners. If you have any questions at all or want to check out any of these parts, head to RoushPerformance.com, and we can't wait to see how you customize your Mustang.
Welcome back to the Roush Performance Esports channel. We are live here on YouTube page as well as streaming it over to Facebook. We just had our fearless leader leave us in the commentary booth. Had Jack Roush Jr. in here for the first quarter of the race, first hour of this race out here. And Joe Peak, now we're going to have to navigate it ourselves. I'm a little scared.
I think you and I can hold it down, though, as it looks like actually we're ready to go. And once we get going, there is some interesting strategy to talk about.
Oh, and this will be interesting. I'm not sure what happened with Peachy Campos here, but he is leading the field to the green flag. I think he might have gotten waved around one too many times, but Jeff McConey will be our official leader here. We'll make sure race control gets on top of Peachy Campos, brings him down onto pit road, make sure he gets the black flag to bring him down rather than having the lead pack go ahead and pass him, and then we'll make sure under the next yellow flag to get him back out there on the lead lap. So Jeff McConey leading the field down the back straightaway here. Blake Reynolds sitting in second place. Aiden Walker is that green and yellow car sitting in the third place, and we're accelerating up already 220 miles an hour out onto the front straightaway.
Yeah, and McConey got extremely lucky with that last yellow because he managed to get back out after his pit stop on the lead lap. So that meant he could cycle to the front of the field. Traditionally at Indy, you only get to stay on the lead lap if you're amongst the first few cars when you pit and you have a decent stop. So his must have been a good amount of time, and it cycled him back out. The other interesting thing is Srikar, Smith, Melee, all three of them pitted a couple laps, basically essentially at the end of that yellow. So the reason you would do something like that is they topped up on fuel because they were at the back of the field, Joey. So they're trying to set themselves up for just a little more wiggle room strategically.
The more fuel you have out there, just kind of the more it opens the doors. And too wide right there. I think that was between James and Lucas in turn number one. James Thurston, we were talking a little bit about him earlier. He was second place in our Roundy Round series with RFK Racing, but he actually won every single race that he was entered. It just was unfortunate that he couldn't make all of the events. So Aaron Smith was actually champion. I see Aaron still alive back there in 12th place. So it has been just a battle of survival out here approaching halfway. And Joe, sometimes that's the way it goes with these Indy 500 events. Sometimes they can be pretty clean and it's, one car, two cars out. But in the case of our yellow flags here, they actually collected quite a few cars.
Yeah, there are years at Indy where it is just a bloodbath out there, and attrition eats car after car after car. So trying to stay in it is an important aspect of it, as we see Lodato get passed by Reynolds once again. The other interesting thing about what this race has been going through is it's been extremely humid all day, as the haze has really been illustrating. It's over 90% humidity right now.
I was noticing the ambient temperature not so bad, but yeah, look at that track temp I shouldn't say well into the triple digits, but just approaching 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I was noticing that through our qualifying sessions, it was quite windy. Our race session only about 4 miles an hour, but I think qualifying was up there 15, 16 miles an hour. Now, we use the forecasted weather, so it generates the weather, and then at least for qualifying, we kept it static, right? So when you start the session, it's the same thing as it ends. That way, everybody has the exact same qualifying run. But Joe, in Indy cars, 15 miles an hour of wind could definitely affect the car.
Oh, absolutely. These cars are extremely sensitive to wind. In the corners, if you get a crosswind, you can get very unbalanced out there. So you definitely want them to be a headwind going into there to give you that little bit more downforce. And McConey going to get passed by Reynolds. Now, McConey's kind of in the opposite situation as our 3 that pitted earlier. Yes, he cycled to the front, but he's now 3 laps shorter on his fuel compared to everybody else around him. So if we go green for a long time, he finds himself in a similar situation as before, where he has to pit before everybody.
And an interesting decision, too. You would think that being at a disadvantage on the fuel, you would want to sit behind some of your competitors and start to save a little bit of that, maybe try to put yourself back on that level playing field. But it seems like Jeff McConey's strategy is to be out front, be in clean air, lead those laps. And I can't say that I blame him, right? The further you're back in track position, you've got to deal with the dirty air out there. So you're having to use more of those bars, use more of those in-cockpit adjustments out there. But you're also kind of putting yourself in danger of if an accident happens directly in front of you.
Yeah, and that's where it's, kind of, well, how do I want to play this? And I think we've seen that already, that Jeff prefers to be out in that clean air. Me personally, I probably would have dropped back a couple spots, even if it's just in a second, and just not challenge the leader. Let them pull me along so that it can open up things, because this, I think, is way too early in the race to try and lead every lap. I think it's better to try and open yourself up strategically towards the end, because clearly he's got the pace. That's not an issue. He knows that he can push his way to the front. I think he needs to start thinking maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Right on board here with Keith Jeffrey in the number 88. Keith is joining us from the Pacific Northwest up here, a fellow Pacific Northwesterner. I'm up here in the Seattle area, and of course he is teammates over there with Connor Parise and Blake Reynolds. Unfortunately, Connor was kind of knocked out of competition early, but glad to have Keith joining us here and having fun with these Indy cars out at IMS Speedway. He's been a busy boy in terms of the fixed 500s and the official Indy 500 events. So he's putting in another 500 miles here with the Roush Performance eSports channel, giving us a good view inside of his sim room as Blake Reynolds, his teammate, actually passes back up there for the lead. And Joe Pica, I understand maybe Justin Knutson had a little bit of an incident with the wall.
As you can see here, with part of his car clearly missing, that front wing is gone. He got a bit of a hip check. Yeah, Jose, I think, just gave him a tiny touch, and that's all it takes around here. You can see that was a very light brush between the two of them, and it absolutely shot him up into the safer barrier.
Yeah, and, all I can hope for is that Justin's car isn't too heavily affected out there. You saw the damage on the front wing, but usually they can get that swapped out. And of course, we got Trent Brown here in race control. So if we do have another full course yellow, we'll make sure to get them back out there on the lead lap. So working lap number 75 of 200. Jeff McConey currently leads the way. Blake Reynolds drafting by him on the back straightaway here. A little bit of a peloton. These two just going back and forth. And I think, if anything, Lucas Lodato, Aiden Walker, James Thurston, Keith Jeffrey, Presley Sora. I mean, those are all names that we typically see up at the front. It doesn't matter what iRacing event. I think those guys are kind of sitting in the catbird seat.
I agree 100%. The ones that are just letting this race come to them, they're the ones that are probably going to be in a better position as the race unfolds, especially if we keep going green. And as we've seen, yes, we've had a few incidents here and there, but they've been relatively sparse. And the other thing to keep in mind in all that is, as more cars fall out, that's fewer cars that could cause incidents. So it's going to be more likely to stay green.
Let's see them as they navigate through these square corners of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Trent, let's bring you back here into our commentary booth. I got just a general Indianapolis question here for you.
Yeah.
How many laps do you think you put in around IMS here in the month of May?
Oh, in iRacing, a lot. I mean, it's the best month there is. Why would you not be? That's the question.
Yeah, that's true. And then you ran a 300-mile event last night too, didn't you?
Yeah, we sure did. Um, Actually, a lot of the people that were in this race were in that same race. So, a lot of guys that are in this race have way more laps than I do.
Well, you've been sitting here in race control. Yes, some of these guys have a lot more laps than you, but this has been pretty standard racing that you've seen up at the front, huh?
Yeah, they're doing a really good job. There's a lot of strategy going on with the driver swaps in the front two positions. It definitely helps break up the draft. It helps the drivers behind them kind of rely more on the draft to not stay out of it, because they will have to slow down more for the entry of the corners as the air gets taken off their car. So really, once you see like third, fourth position, the air is really, really light. So there's not doing a lot of work on the cars for downforce. That's why you see the first two cars are able to do a lot of swapping. But that's also their strategy to keep them everyone else at bay behind them. But the trade-off there is, of course, fuel mileage.
Well, that aerodynamic wake that Trent was just mentioning, the further and further you get back in the pack, the more and more that dirty air definitely gets kicked up out here. And oh, Joe, I see that you were able to put a little note down in here. That is an interesting tidbit of information. Why don't you tell everybody?
Yeah, not something that we'll see here at Indy unless they're on the road course, but iRacing has announced that the Indy car is going to get the wet tire next season. So a couple of vehicles are having that added to them, and I'm pretty sure the Indy community is going to be absolutely thrilled to hear that.
Well, looks like we've got Alex Crow is going to be joining us here. And unfortunately, Alex, you're no longer racing out there on the racetrack. You did grab pole position a little bit earlier this week with the qualifying. What happened to you?
Yeah, we were just chilling in line, getting close to the first round of green flag pit stops there, and everyone was getting a little bit more aggressive. All of a sudden, I had iRacing staff on my inside, slid straight up into me. I made sure he knew I'm not renewing my subscription anymore. But no, it's...
Was Corey on the inside of you?
It was Corey, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I just got tag in the rear and then straight in the inside wall. Car's done. Couldn't do anything about it, but yeah, car felt good. Track is feeling really good. Been in a call with Lucas, the Dada, the whole race. We've just been talking strategy, making plans for later in the race. We had a wonderful two-person plan that I'm not going to be able to execute, but yeah, now just sitting, watching the rest of the race, helping out Lucas where I can.
Well, and you know, it is a smaller field now because we had those two large crashes that took out several cars apiece. Are you adapting that two-car plan to a one-car plan? Are you changing anything, or are you just kind of chugging along?
Two-car plan only works as a two-car plan, or more cars. So unless someone wants to be our teammate, wants to be Lucas's teammate for the rest of the race, he's just going to be sitting, maybe staying towards the front, trying to be in the right back position for it. It's kind of hard to deviate off of the regular strategy from here, I think.
Yeah, I definitely hear you when everything is so draft heavy with the fixed setup. But let's say, looking towards the end of this thing, I know we're approaching halfway. Any names out there that you guys have kind of circled that you say, all right, we're for sure going to have to race this guy for the win? Yeah,
looking at Thurston, for sure. Aiden Walker as well. He's been up there. Keeping an eye out for Presley. He's a little bit further back right now. I think we had Matt Brewer, but he seemed to disconnect, I think. Yeah, those were the names we were really looking for. Matt Brewer really liked to run up front the first stint or two. McConey is obviously sitting up there as well. Not really sure what his plan is. He's a little off cycle on fuel and burning a lot right now too. But I don't know, maybe he's got something in the bag that no one else knows about.
Well, Alex, I just want to say thank you for coming out and participating with us at Roush Performance Esports. I wish that you were still out there on the racetrack, as I'm sure that you wish so too. But I hope to see you back at future stuff too, if you're interested.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely got my laps in for Indianapolis this month, my 4th 500.
That's a lot of laps.
It is a lot of laps.
That's a lot of miles around this place. Well, I'll let you go back up there to your team. Thank you so much for joining us, Alex.
Thanks, Jay. Have a great night.
You too. Well, that was Alex Crow, and he was your pole sitter here for this RPE Indy 500. But, Joe, not everything always works out, unfortunately.
No, that's the thing with racing. You kind of got to learn to take your lumps. As hard as we all want to win and really push to do our best, that sometimes just things don't go your way. You got to suck it up and get back out there and try again. Now, what I found interesting was it sounds like he feels the same way that I do, that I'm surprised Jeff is continuing to try and lead this race, even when he's already disadvantaged on his fuel strategy. But now that things have kind of settled in, he doesn't have anybody fighting him for it, so he's going to be using up even more fuel, just pushing the air for Lucas and Aiden.
Different strategies, different horses for courses, but I think when we look at Indianapolis, you want to be able to be on the same strategy. I think that the only benefit that Jeff McConey has right now is that if there's a mistake in front of him, he can clearly see it. There's not going to be any mistakes. There's no cars in front of him. So that's what he is ensuring, is that he's doing clean laps out there. Not only that, but he has the cleanest air to that front wing, so technically his car should be handling the best in terms of not having to make those adjustments. It's just kind of monitoring that tire wear every single lap. Okay, do I need maybe a skosh more rear bar? But you shouldn't be having to mess with the weight jacker too much. And that's kind of what you want to do as a driver, isn't it, Joe? The less stuff that you're messing around with, the more you can actually focus on the racetrack.
For sure. And these Indy cars, as you talked about, even though it's fixed setup, there's a lot of things that you can do and should be doing in the cockpit if you want to be fast. So somebody out in the back there really popping out of line to try and give it a go. But these 12 that are still running are all in line together, not just on the lead lap. The entire field is within 2 seconds right now.
It's pretty impressive. Now, we have had a lot of we've had 50% attrition rate out here. We had 26 show up. I mean, we had a full field commit to this one. Unfortunately, I think maybe a couple stragglers didn't show up. But then once we got rolling, we had a few big crashes. We had that early crash. What was it? About lap 27, 28 or so? Is that what the first one was?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my goodness, I think we might have had another crash right there. We have got a yellow flag, and this one is going to really narrow down our field. This is Robert Kanchin as well as Presley Sora. Don't usually see Presley exit the race like that one. Have to see exactly what happened on this replay, Joe.
I think Keith Jeffrey involved in this one. He'll get away clean, but not without a bit of ire from his rivals, as I think he got into the back of Sora. Yeah, here, watch this down into turn one. Don't know if Sora maybe had a lift he wasn't expecting or what, but he came upon him very fast and then woof, an almost Scott Dixon-like accident there for one of our cars just getting blasted into the fence.
So unfortunate. So we are under yellow flag once again. Take a look at the replay here. So it happens going down into turn number one. I think the orange car of Charlie Hosey lifts off the throttle, and I gotta say that Charlie's been in a lot of wrecks. Somehow he's still out there on the racetrack, and so unfortunately, yeah, Keith definitely got into the back of Presley, and then Robert didn't really have anywhere to go, but it was kind of one of those accordion effects that definitely started a little bit before that. So what we're going to do is take a quick break here and be right back with a little bit more racing action here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You've heard this story before. A legend that never sleeps, lurking in the shadows. A beast forged in fire of engineering and madness. It rages through the night, tearing up the road with mind-bending precision. Its presence felt in every turn. Its howl echoing through the streets. Balanced, controlled, but always reaching for madness. I've seen legends rise and fall, but this one keeps coming back for more.
Welcome back to the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the first ever RPE Indy 500 event. Wind has kind of been taken out of the sails, just a touch out here. We had about 26 cars start this race, and down to about 10 of them running, unfortunately, just shy of halfway here, Joe. But sometimes Indianapolis Motor Speedway is not very forgiving. We're going to get a replay of one of those reasons right here.
Yeah, poor Cancian got the absolute worst of this. I said that a car got kind of shot into the fence. Well, we'll get a first-person perspective of what that feels like and show you how hard it is to react. He sees the car spinning, but where do you go in that situation? You could see he was trying to get out of the way, but the higher you go, the more likely you're just going to understeer off up into the safer barrier. So you're really just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Very unfortunate there for Cancian, and it essentially ends his race. So he is going to be parked in pit lane, but we are back. Green flag racing. Got Lucas Lodato out front, leading Aiden Walker, James Thurston, Jeff McConey, Devin Smirker, Charlie Hosey, Joseph Mealy, Keith Jeffrey, Aaron Smith, and Blake Reynolds. Now, if there is one silver lining here to having 10 cars on the racetrack right now, Joe, those names that I just listed off are pretty much the all-stars of this field.
Yeah, and I mean, the cream rises to the top, right? So it's all the drivers that know how to try and keep their wits about them in this race to try to get to the finish. And we're not even at the halfway point yet, so they know that there's still a lot to go. The other thing that is amusing about all this, all of my criticality of Jeff McConey, that yellow flag reset everything, and everybody's back on the same strategy now.
Yeah, it kind of worked out for him. For those just now joining up, Jeff McConey was a few laps shy in terms of that fuel stint out there. But now he is all set because that full course yellow essentially put him dead even on strategy. So he now has a clean head of steam, clean air out the windscreen of this Dallara IR18, and enough fuel to last him at least another 30 laps or so.
Exactly. He's on even footing with all those around him. And as we've seen, he likes to lead anyway, so now he goes right back to the front. He's still going to eat more fuel up if he tries to keep this up, but it won't be as dramatic a difference as what we saw before.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll just kind of see how he manages that pace. Now, in terms of lap times, it's still been consistent low 41s. So he's not lifting it all out there. So he's running a good, safe pace, and I think everybody's just going to kind of be in line, chugging along right now.
Certainly, and curious to see what Lucas does, if he'll just keep pulling behind him like this and saving that fuel, because again, that will help him the longer we stay green. With so few cars on track, it does seem likely that we're going to get a lot of green flag racing. But there's some very smart drivers in this group. Blake Reynolds comes to mind. I mean, former pro class driver, black stripe, we like to call him here in iRacing. racing in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola series for many years before he stepped away from that. It's not like he's lost that skill, so he finds himself once again in a good spot. And honestly, I've watched him run a lot of these 500s. He races or used to race in the Majors series for many, many years, and he was always a top-level competitor in that group, usually taking a number of wins.
And I mean, if we're going through the all-star list, let's just talk about some of these drivers, right? We're halfway through this 500-mile event. Blake Reynolds, extremely successful, like you said, former eNASCAR pro out there. He knows how to get it done on the ovals, and he has been a regular with our Roush Performance esports events. Competed in our prototype series, competed in some of our open wheel events, so he is always towards the front of the field. James Thurston, who's currently running in second place right now. Wicked good oval racer. And Joe, you remember that Racing with Raja event that we just covered on iRacing? James actually finished second overall. A bit of a controversial finish because his truck actually crossed the line first, but the transponder didn't.
Exactly, and unfortunately that's what they go by in iRacing. In real life, they'd have the ability to go and look at it with the photo and say, okay, it was this car, but you can't really change the results here on this one. So a bit unfortunate for him is now things are starting to spice up. Here I thought we were going to just log off some laps, but Blake Reynolds split the pair of them to take the lead away from McConey and Thurston.
I love it. I asked Trent to put a message in the chat to say to keep the racing clean out here, to make sure that we've got cars that survive all 500 miles. And what do? Decide to take it 3 wide on the front straightaway here. James Thurston is that third car in line, really pushing the issue. You see Jeff McConey kind of take the high entry and kind of capitalize on the straight line speed. There's a couple methods here at Indianapolis, and you see Blake Reynolds just kind of weaving back and forth on the front straightaway here. I think he wants to keep that clean air to the front of that 66 machine, while Jeff McConey wants the front air on the front of the 03. So just kind of two drivers out there trying to battle for that clean air. James Thurston sitting in that third place position, and then Devin Smirker. I can talk about Devin because he is actually the our RFK Racing Holiday Event Showdown winner back there in December. Always works very closely with that RFK Racing team. And so Devin's always good to have out here. He may not be necessarily the one that we think about when it comes to those iRacing top split official wins, but trust me, Joe, Devin definitely knows how to get around these ovals.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We've already seen how easily he's up towards the front, way down to the inside. I get the sense, honestly, from what I've been seeing of Blake, this is actually him kind of goofing around a little bit. You don't need to weave that dramatically. So I think knowing that, this is a one-off, this is just for fun.
Yes.
He's literally having fun right now.
Well, and Blake also knows the vibe on our channel, too, as we are 3 wide. James Thurston down low, Blake Reynolds in the middle, Jeff McConey up top. Let's see who lifts out of it. Jeff is not lifting out of up top. If anything, it's James Thurston out of that bottom lane that ends up lifting out of it, falls back into third place. And Joe, yes, to your point, Blake is having so much fun. Look at him all the way down there on the apron. And sometimes you have to do that. We've had a lot of cars crash out of here. He knows us up in the broadcast booth. He knows us on how we run these in terms of the admin controls and whatnot. He's not doing any harm. He's just making some entertainment for us.
Exactly. As long as he doesn't wreck the car. That's my big worry there. Is you make some of those silly moves, and sometimes it's play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
So, continuing through the field here, Lucas Lodato. Now, Joe, you had mentioned that name, comes over and plays with some of the Classic Lotus. Was also part of that top split 500 that you were covering.
Exactly. And I try to be impartial, but there is a part of me that wants to see him win because he hails from Cincinnati as well. You can always see it all over his car. It always paints it with either University of Cincinnati or I was trying to think. There's a beer that's brewed locally that he also tends to promote on the side of his car. But Lucas definitely knows what he's doing out here. We've seen him up towards the front. And honestly, I feel like he's kind of more leaning towards what I've been talking about. He's just kind of letting this race happen. He's not really fighting other drivers. When he gets up towards the front, we've seen him maybe make a couple passes for the lead, but for the most part, he just kind of sits and rides.
And I think that's the smart thing to do right now. I've been trying to get him to make it all the way to the end. This is not a demolition derby event, even though that sometimes it can definitely seem like it. But got to make it to the end of these 200 laps out here. Continuing down the order, Aiden Walker, the number 93 car. Now, we've mentioned Aiden a couple times. He's been up towards the front the majority of this race. But this is another top split Indy 500 winner, an iRacing official top split Indy 500 winner. Joe, do you remember how many splits there were in that top time slot? Wasn't it something like 40?
Yeah, 45 or so. I think the number was somewhere around there. And it was, 33, 32 cars in every single one. So we had done the math before, but it's a lot of cars.
Yeah, I mean, just by the rough math, 32 drivers at 42 splits is 1,344 drivers that registered out there. I think that the month of May has officially become one of the busiest for iRacing.
It's definitely long been one of the premier events that they host, and this year really proved, I think, that it's kind of rising in stature as one of those that everybody wants to get out and try their hand at. I mean, it's the greatest spectacle in racing. It's long held that name, and I think both real life and the sim proves it every year.
Chugging around, seeing some extracurricular activity still from Blake Reynolds. He's got to be careful about that IMS pit lane. Not to go smashing head first into that one. So hopefully he keeps it nice and clean out there. Jeff McConey is that car that is blue and black, sitting in second place with James Thurston in third. Continuing down the list of drivers here, I see Joseph Mealy. He's the number 39 car rolling around in the 8th place position. Now, Joe, I'm not sure if you know Joseph here at all. I have gotten to know this name through our Roush Performance Roundy Round series with RFK Racing. Came out and competed with us in those NASCAR next-gen cars, or the brand-new NASCARs. And then was very consistent, always showing up, always a threat to win those races, always finishing on the podium. So another one of these oval driver specialists.
And calling me a little bit unsurprised seeing he hails from the Carolina Club, that he takes part in a lot of the NASCAR events. You tend to get fans of that over in that area of the United States, with so many tracks involved in NASCAR and just in oval racing in general around there. But we've seen a lot of NASCAR drivers be willing to hop into open wheelers, or interested in doing so over the years. So, yeah, glad to see him give this one a try and pick up the speed a little bit. He's also been kind of riding at the back, and I think, if I recall correctly, he has kind of been involved in a couple of these incidents, having to make stops in the pit lane for a few repairs. So I'm just glad that the car's still good enough that he's hanging with everybody.
Tell you what, very aggressive from our leaders. 3 wide going into turn number 3 that time. I think it was Blake Reynolds that dove down to the inside. I'm not surprised to see Jeff McConey still there sitting in second place, and James Thurston's getting a little bit more feisty here. It is fun to watch these, call it stock car guys, go into some open wheelers, because, Joe, they like being able to turn the wheel and the car actually responding to them.
Exactly. A lot more nimble than what they're used to, and thank goodness they're nimble. As Blake even going right up to the edge of McConey there. Needs to be careful that the netcode doesn't accidentally take them out.
Getting some more jokes of fog here in the chat. It is pretty foggy out there. Yeah, we do have a little bit of some fog at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But if anything, Joe, that should just make the air nice and thick for those aero devices.
I was going to say, adding a lot of downforce and drag on these machines, no doubt. And for those not familiar, iRacing does take those things into account. I mean, they go to the extent that it affects the engine performance as well, the thickness of the air. So if you get better conditions that you would have in real life, that plays out here in the sim too.
Riding on board here with Blake Reynolds. I actually think I see Tina Lodato over there in the YouTube chat. Might as well give Lucas a little bit of love as some passes happen going here into turn number 1. Blake overtakes for the lead. Lucas is sitting there comfortably in 6th place. We were actually just talking to his teammate Alex Crow. Unfortunately, and maybe, Joe, you can probably dive into this a little bit. They mentioned that they were on a 2-car strategy, but now since there's only 1 car out there, that kind of heavily affects their plan. What do they mean when they're on a 2-car strategy? Probably for drafting or fuel, yeah?
That would be my guess. I haven't heard that referred to before, but to me it seems pretty obvious that, yeah, they wanted to leapfrog. So essentially what happens is you can go faster by simply having the 2 cars use each other as a slingshot, because each lap, each straightaway, the other gets to use that to get to a higher speed down at the front. Because remember, fixed setups, so nobody can find any sort of straight line speed advantage other than just really nailing the corner exit, which isn't going to give you more than maybe a mile an hour or 2. Whereas the slipstream is huge in these cars. So that allows you to be so much quicker. Or as you said, it could be a fuel mileage thing where, one car just says, during one stint, well, I'll be the one to go out and push the air for you, and you can ride behind me, and that'll allow you to go really long. You think back to 2016 with Alex Rossi. They literally did that in the real 500, and that got him a win, a very famous win there in this race, just by working with a teammate and being extra careful, extra cautious with the fuel.
It all comes down to strategy at some races out there. And speaking of strategy, so these cars can do about 30 to 34 laps. I think we saw McConey short pit it about 29 laps or so on that first opening stint. I always love that shot of all those cars going across at 220 miles an hour across a single yard of bricks out there. But I was just mentioning strategy because we're working lap number 24 of this fuel stint right now. Now, there were a couple laps under yellow flag, but I think that they should probably be getting to pit probably in the next handful or so. And if I'm going to be Miss Cleo, I would expect Jeff McConey to be the first one down again.
I would too. He hasn't been leading all the laps, but we know that he has been leading at least a chunk of them before Reynolds started to make this a little bit more fun out at the front. There you can see the 03 there, just kind of slotting back into second. So I would say, yeah, probably about 9 laps from now, we'll see most drivers pit. Maybe earlier if you're McConey or some of these up at the front that's been eating up more fuel.
And I don't think that it's enough to go off strategy per se. And with the minimal amount of cars that we've got running, I think that if Jeff McConey does pit, call it a lap or 2 earlier than the rest of the field, it's not going to put him in any sort of danger. So he just needs to stay on the lead lap out there, essentially pull the same sort of strategy he did earlier in the race. And speaking of strategy calls, I think that was a strategy call. Did you see what happened on the front straightaway there? Blake Reynolds pulled out of that draft train, simply lifted off of the gas, and he's actually slow on the back straightaway too. I think he's just sitting in the draft now.
Yeah. He's had his fun. He knows that maybe it's time to save a little bit of that gas, and just he's going all the way to the back. So he's had his fill, and he's going to try and lift and coast a lot into some of these corners. The one big danger that you do have to worry about, though, under these green flag stops is you don't want to beat yourself onto pit lane. So it's so easy, since these cars don't really, we talked about this earlier, you're not on the brakes hardly at all. They're not warm. So you got to make sure and know what your marks are, trying to get from 220 miles an hour down to 60 in, just a few hundred feet.
I think I found what Blake Reynolds is doing. Easy there, Charlie Hosey. Easy, bud. Gotta be careful in that orange number 100. I'd mentioned that name a few times, been involved with several wrecks already. Was almost involved in another one there. But Blake Reynolds just simply went to the back of the field to see how fast he could drive up towards the front of the field. So that was pretty interesting to watch. Fell all the way back to 9th. Got to the back of the train back here, and now, call it a lap and a half later, Joe, with the fixed setup and how well that these cars draft, he's back up there fighting for the lead.
I noticed exactly that as well. I realized once he started repassing cars, it made very quick sense what was up, and I'm really shocked at how fast he's able to get back up there. I figured, you could make those passes with the slipstream. I didn't think you could go through all 9 cars, well, I guess 8 cars at this case, and get back up to the front. But yeah, that's super valuable information for him, because he knows if he does get cycled to the back for whatever reason, either a mistake or just everybody manages to get by him at some point, he has the ability to reclimb the field very fast, mind you. So it won't matter as much if he does lose it and get sent to the back of this group.
He's been able to prove to himself that he's got the speed to go out there and win today's race. But what we are going to do, actually, is Jeff McConey dives down into pit road. That's on point there, lap number 29. So we're going to do some ride on boards here. Hang out inside the cockpit of some of these Dallara IR18 Indy cars for the RPE Indy 500 event. Welcome back to the Roush Performance Esports channel. Got about 75 laps remaining here on our inaugural RPE Indy 500 event. Have had a few cars drop by the wayside in terms of 220-mile-an-hour speeds claiming victims. We've had 2 early pitters. That includes Blake Reynolds and Jeff McConey, while we've got the majority of our field still stretching it out on their fuel map, trying to make it to the end, essentially. And we've got about 75 laps is what we're looking at here. Here comes a few more down pit lane, but I'm actually going to bring in race control, Trent Brown, engineer, always looking over strategy. Now, you've got a lot of experience, especially running a 300-mile race yourself last night. How far can these cars stretch it in those different fuel maps?
Well, I mean, so these cars do have multiple engine maps that they can run, and trade-off obviously being, staying in the draft pack. So if you're running down map 4, so you can get like 34, 35, even more laps on a green flag stint.
And then if you were fuel saving, let's say if you were in map 4 and just kind of sitting there by yourself, how much more do you think you can actually save by following a car?
Probably about 6 laps. It's
Okay.
definitely substantial. It definitely adds up over time. So, I mean, we have 73 laps left. That's so that we still have a few stints if they go green the rest of the way.
So what you're basically hinting at to me here is that even if these guys that just pitted are able to run 35 laps per stint, they might not be able to make it to the end based off of about 1 lap.
Yeah, I think it's getting very close. And that kind of answers your question, your guys' question of like having 2-car pack. When you pit, you really need another car with you so you can do the draft swap, because the front 2 cars obviously going to have significantly less laps in their stints, and they're definitely going to need to pit with other cars. So Aaron Smith leading the race right now is pitting, and he was out there for a lap or 2 with no one running with. He was not running with anyone, so that may hurt him in the long run. He may come out of the pits here with no draft help.
Well, and kind of to your point, looks like the cars on track were running low 41s. And Aaron was doing a 41.7, 41.8, I believe, that last time by. So we'll just see if he's able to cycle out with that draft pack. I will say, though, that he was able to hit that number that if he's able to leave pit lane, get back out there on the racetrack, he's actually on the apron right now. There's the yellow car. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to stay onto the back of the draft. But Joe, crucially, by my math, and now commentator math is not good math, but if he's able to do 35 laps, that should put him to the checkered flag, and nobody else might not be able to make it.
Exactly. So what he needs to hope is that it stays green. So that's the downside here, is that he needs 70 laps of green flag racing now. And the good news is for him, he came out behind Thurston and ahead of Mealy. So he's got some drafting help now, and that'll help the mileage even more. But the bad news is that is the group that lost touch with the lead. They're about a second and a half off of everybody that had quicker stops and stayed with him. McConey and Reynolds, they did a beautiful job after their pit stop. They were working together much more efficiently, and it gave them plenty of speed to help drop some of those drivers in this group.
I noticed that too. Even though that McConey came in 1 lap before Reynolds, they essentially exited pit lane pretty much together, so they were able to work together. Aiden Walker has taken advantage. Nice stop from him, only 9.2 seconds stationary from that green and yellow number 93 car. out there, so he's sitting in a very good spot. And then Joe, kind of to your point, even though that Aaron Smith did lose draft with that front pack, he was with James Thurston, and because of how fast James is, they've all caught back up.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I didn't think that he'd be able to catch them that quickly, but Thurston's already run down the front group, which means everybody that was towing along with him is now up there. The one driver that really, I think, got the worst of it all was Charles O.C. I noticed he was about 7 to 8 seconds slower cone to cone. He was fine in his pit stall. I think he must have overshot his pit box or something.
Yeah, that can definitely happen, and he's sitting right there with Keith Jeffrey. Keith is the other car running with them, the black and red car on the outside there. And if we do have another yellow flag, we'll make sure to get Keith up on the lead lap here, make sure we get Charles packed up as well. But while we still run green flag, these guys are going to have to do it the hard way out there as our leader, Jeff McConey, continues to do laps. I see one of my golden retrievers here, Jet, trying to sneak in between the green screen and the racing simulator, almost causing everything to fall down over here, Joe.
The unique challenges of sim racing commentary sometimes, but well, I'm sure you're trying to get that set back up. We get a little bit of side-by-side action. Lodato going past Reynolds, now setting his sights on Walker. Did we have something that disrupted them, though? Because they're now suddenly almost a second apart between our top three.
I think it's just Blake having fun again. You know, he was up towards the front, and then he caught back up, and now he's dropping back. And Aiden Walker's about 1.2 seconds off of Jeff McConey. Let's see the lap times here. You know what, Joe? 42.4 out of Aiden Walker. That screams to me fuel save, especially if Jeff McConey's up there doing 41.4. Remember, Jeff knows he can't make it on fuel. This car, I think, is trying to.
Yes, very much so, because he's now plugging up the field, some of which are desperately trying to get by because they're seeing McConey run away. It's 2.5 seconds and growing. I know that they have lost the slipstream. I don't think there's any running him down unless they also now try and leapfrog each other to work and catch him.
Trent, you're saying that everybody who's taken your excellent strategy advice, they're all listening to the broadcast?
I mean, it's a free service. Why wouldn't you? Right? I mean, this is actually very realistic.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of scary. Like, I feel like I'm sitting in the grandstands because the actual Indy 500 is such a fuel mileage race. It's a lot of fun to watch, and the race goes fast. But this is great. I love it.
Rounding through these square corners here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Aaron Smith. I know that it looks like he's leading the pack, which he's leading the draft pack. Jeff McConey has now taken off 4.4 seconds. Aaron's last lap time, a 42.5. This will be very, very interesting. Now, Trent, you said 35 laps on map 4, correct?
Yeah, you could get about that, 34, 35. I mean, definitely, you could stay out like a substantially, like, more laps. So I think Jeff is definitely, I mean, first off, Jeff has done a great race. He started this race from the very back and steadily worked his way to the front. So he has done an amazing job driving, and with as much leading as he's done, he's just kind of worked himself to where he has to go for it. And this is something that you see in real life too. You get a good mix of drivers saving and going for it. So it's the magic of the 500.
Jeff McConey up here still leading the way. I actually see Brian Murphy over there in the YouTube chat, RFK team member. Always super happy to have all of our RFK racing team guys welcome with us whenever we do our events. Most of the time it's that holiday showdown towards December. Had the Roundy Round series a little bit earlier this year that wasn't quite broadcast, but we had our highlights package that we'd put up there every race. So Brian, thank you so much for watching our racing out here, as well as the other team members. Have to do with RFK Racing as well, especially Devin Smirker. And then also the team, the esports team, Joseph Mealy is out there, as well as James Thurston. So they actually have all 3 cars still running out there. Pretty neat. Coming up on lap number 140 out here. Joe, that gap has grown 9 seconds between McConey and Aaron Smith.
And, you know, the more I think in this, the more I think this is actually the right call from his part, because he's, you know, he knows he's not going to make it. So he might as well go, because even if he does 29 laps per stint, essentially, if he runs it green all the way to the end, he's still going to be putting significant distance on those behind him. And if it doesn't go green to the end, if we get a caution, he's not going to lap down. So no matter what he does, he'll just be put even on everybody else. So this is him realizing, you know what, I've got nothing to lose by just going flat out for this. So let's just try it, and then, you know, we'll see where it lies at the end.
And I think you have to. Eventually, there comes to be a point in the strategy that you got to lay in the bed that you made. And Jeff has been out front pushing all of that air, so he is going to be doing maximum fuel burn. Now, if that's the strategy, stick to it. I often times see people get in trouble when they try to pick one and then change to a different, and then they have another change of mind and go to an alternate strategy C. It always seems like that's when things start to unravel for people. Stick to a game plan and execute it properly.
Yeah. You got to stay on the horse that you've chosen to cross the river with, for sure. So I think this is Jeff really making a good call here. I mean, 13 seconds now. He is really, I mean, this is kind of stuff is unheard of in Indianapolis. You don't really see cars pull away at this amount of pace in this time period.
You know what I'm loving seeing right now? Keith Jeffrey. Remember, Keith was involved in a small incident a little while back, and he has essentially lost a lap on everybody. But he is making it up the hard way. So we talk about all of this fuel burn and everybody kind of lifting off of the throttle. Keith is one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, turning 41s out there. Yes, he's still in 10th place position, but he's actually trying to go get his lap back the hard way. If we do get a yellow flag, of course, he'll be waved around, but if he's able to get that lap back, well, that means he can pit and essentially be on the same cycle as everybody.
Exactly. And admittedly, if it stays green, even if he has a really good pace, I don't know that he's going to be able to catch them. It would take an amazing run to make a whole lap of time in these cars. But yeah, you're right. He's doing what he needs to do just in case we get that yellow, so that he can be back in the hunt here. And I guess the nice thing that everybody else behind him appreciates about this, they can go faster and still save fuel.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Yeah, let him kind of pull along the train, and then it's just up to everybody else on how much fuel save they can do while still chasing Keith Jeffrey out here. So really cool to talk about this driver, because we haven't had him up on the lead lap for the majority of this green flag run here. And he is definitely one of the all-stars when it comes to these open-wheel cars, especially an Indy 500 event. Like I said, I had teammates in here, Connor Parise, as well as Blake Reynolds, I believe. So he's just kind of hanging out, pulling along this draft train currently.
This is going to make Jeff McConey very annoyed, because for as quickly as he was pulling away, Walker's last couple laps, 41.3, 41.4. I mean, you compare that to the 43.2s, 43.3s, 42.2s that he was doing. This is massively faster. This hurts McConey's efforts to try and make up the time under green.
The only thing is if they can fuel save as much as they need while still following Keith Jeffrey, right? Because we saw Jeff be able to pull it away. They needed to fuel save more than what they could keep up with Jeff McConey. And I actually kind of see that happening right now. Aiden Walker is doing his best to kind of hang on the back of the draft. But I think it's almost going to be another few laps, and it's going to be a similar situation where they were able to do those 41s while following, but now they're having to slow it back down to the 42s, and I'm just not sure if the draft will be able to continue to pull them.
Yeah, no, it's too far apart at this stage. So you're right. It helped them for a little bit, but the last one was already a 41.7. He's dropping time, and he's well outside of the range. Although
Whoa.
a few of the drivers are going to try and no, they aren't going to try and run them down. That's Reynolds, who is at the end of his stint, or is he? No,
This
he's
is
short
early.
pitting. Yeah.
And so this is, this is 53 laps left or something. This is going to be very, very interesting. I think that all Blake is doing is splitting this last race into thirds from his previous stop. Essentially, kind of make it 25 laps or so, just over, in terms of the even stops to the end, which is exactly what he did on this fuel stint.
Yep, that seems to be the call there. And one of the advantages to doing that is that you've got a lighter car because you don't have to fill it up as much to go those 25 lap stints. And each time you have the ability that's plenty of time to change tires. So he can put fresh rubber on. He should have better pace just splitting it up like that. And I wonder if this means he's going to try and maybe match McConey, who's also out there on his lonesome, pushing as hard as he can. So now we got to watch the lap times of these two in comparison to see where they wind up.
I just find it odd. Trent, you're good with this strategy stuff. Do you see a benefit of Blake Reynolds pitting now and going all out to the end? Because if he does, theoretically, his pace should still be about the same as Jeff McConey, a.k.a. another single car running out there. It's just that Jeff has 10 seconds of track position on Blake.
Yeah, basically, but Jeff is still going to have to make 2 more stops, I think. And Blake is only going to have to do 1 more. So I like what Blake has done, just because it's a little bit different. And it looks like actually Jeff is pitting right now. So I like we'll see how they kind of shake out here. I think it's going to be close, and if those two can hook up, I mean, it's just going to, yeah, it's this other pack that we'll be following here is they better hope that they can make it.
So what you're saying is the other pack is going to do something different from the leader.
Correct. And in the end, isn't that what wins you races, Joey?
I'm pretty sure I was trying to get you to say it, but yeah. Well, here you see Jeff McConey leaving pit lane here. So I think some of this strategy is going to unfold here in the next few laps. I'm curious. Let's watch this pack go around here, start finish for, call it 2 more laps, because I think that they can stretch it another good 10 laps. We've got another commercial spot to fit in here, given that we're about 3/4 of the way through this one. I just kind of want to make sure that we don't miss any action on pit road here, Joe Peak. So let's watch these cars go around here, see if 1 or 2 bite coming down pit lane. If not, we'll toss it for our final break.
Yeah, so just for reference, Blake Reynolds did have a 1.6 second faster pit stop. Now, that's not going to make up 14 seconds for him. But I'm also looking at his lap times. 41.1s. Let's see, McConey was doing 41.3s and 41.4s. So he will be eating up that time. Now, I'll have to do some math to figure out how many laps that'll take for him to catch him, though.
Well, and Trent just pointed it out in race control as Devin Smirker literally flies to the lead right now. So that's the 26 saying, enough with this, whatever you guys are doing. And I mean, he literally just put his foot to the floor and he has taken off. So that last lap time, Tacos Trent just pointed out, 44 seconds from our leaders. Aiden Walker of 44.2 that last time. You compare that to Jeff McConey of 41.3. So, Joe, I mean, that's 3 seconds of lap time difference. That's bigger than just fuel save.
Yeah, definitely. And the magic number they're trying to get to here is lap 165. So that's about 12 to 13 laps from now. And they're on lap 25 of the stint currently. So that would mean 37 laps in the stint or thereabouts. So that's a little bit too much to ask. I think they're realizing they can't do this.
Well, while they try to figure it out on the racetrack here, almost a little contact there going into turn number 3. We are going to take a quick commercial break here on the channel and be right back with those final green flag pit stops.
You've heard this story before. A legend that never sleeps, lurking in the shadows. A beast forged in fire of engineering and madness. It rages through the night, tearing up the road with mind-bending precision. Its presence felt in every turn. Its howl echoing through the streets. Balanced, controlled, but always reaching for madness. I've seen legends rise and fall, but this one keeps coming back for more.
You are watching a very foggy Indianapolis Motor Speedway virtually here on the Roush Performance Esports channel. Strategy is finally falling on the racetrack. We had several, I shouldn't say several, but had a few big accidents earlier that took out the majority of our field. But what that has created is a strategy type race where the drivers are having to fuel save. They're having to do the math out there on the racetrack, and our race control engineer, our strategist, Trent Brown behind the scenes here. We have got two major different strategies going down. We got Blake Reynolds and Jeff McConey out there running as fast as possible while this group that we're watching right here is trying to fuel save it and stretch this number. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes. And the reality is that Blake is like within a second of the draft, and he's about to go to the front here. Looks like we have a couple guys going. Oh, we have one guy going for the pits, but this group still has to do a few more laps in order to make it. There's one under one more stint. So
we're essentially looking for what, right about lap 165 is kind of where these guys are going to have to try to make it. About 35 laps on that final stint, yeah?
Yeah, and obviously they're going to want to go more, but Jeff is definitely in a good spot here.
Oh, and Aiden Walker kind of forces McConey to the bottom side of the racetrack. I do not blame him at all, because he was trying to halt the momentum from that 0-3 car, and now you see Jeff McConey firmly in the lead. This will benefit Lucas Lodato. This will benefit Aiden Walker, because remember, these cars are trying to fuel save. So, Joe, they don't want to see Jeff McConey go up there and pass him, but it's almost kind of a blessing in disguise as well.
It is, and you can see he knows that's the case, so he's trying to shake them off the slipstream while they're trying desperately to stay in the tire tracks of that snake. So let's see who comes in this time by, because Jeff is now starting to run away from them by about half a second here. And no, looks like they're all able at least to stay out this one. So they've been doing the hard work. It's just, I think, 2 more laps, although Thurston unable to make it here at the back.
Yeah, so James is the first one to peel in, and I think that magic number that we're really looking for is lap number 165. And then here's the other caveat, okay? So all of these cars coming down pit road right now, including James Thurston, this is an absolutely full fuel load that they are going to have to pack in the car. He ran it completely dry, so he is going to take as much fuel as he possibly can to make it to the end. That is not the case for Jeff McConey. Trent, essentially what Jeff is going to have to do is short fill, right? He's only got about 14 laps on his tires right now, or on his fuel tank. He doesn't need to put all of that fuel in the car, so it's going to be a shorter time on pit road, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, he's still burning a lot of fuel, so it's probably going to be a good 80% of the tank, 85% that he's going to need.
Here comes some of the major players down pit road right now. Lucas Lodato did make it to lap number 165. I also see Aiden Walker stopped in his box. So that leaves Devin Smirker, Aaron Smith, Charles Hosey, and I think that's going to pretty much be about it that has been able to stretch it on this tank. So I think on our last full green flag stop, I was pointing out Aaron Smith was the only one that was kind of good to go in terms of that mileage. Looks like Devin Smirker is able to stretch it as well as he kind of comes to a rest in his stop, Joe.
Yeah, right now, Smith seems to be the last holdout. No, Smirker, or no, I'm sorry, Smirker's in there. So yeah, Aaron Smith, one of the most comfortable in terms of the fuel to try to get it to the end. The rest are going to be pretty tight here, but he should emerge with them. And he was able to hold on to Jeff for quite some time. In fact, now, much to Jeff's dismay, they came out right behind him, so they get his blessing of the slipstream and helping them save fuel and keep better pace. So this is not looking good for Jeff in that sense.
That is very interesting. So yeah, it all worked out in terms of that draft pack as we see Aaron Smith finally come down to his pit stall, that yellow #1 car, get up on the air jacks, take a full load of fuel and some brand new tires. So this is our overall leader, Jeff McConey. We can barely see him through the fog here at this very, very humid day at virtual IMS. But he has kind of been the lap leader out here. He has taken control of the front of the field. And Joe, between the two different strategies, I think that this is actually the easier to run as a driver. You're not constantly looking down at the fuel number, trying to run to a number. You're just out there turning laps.
Absolutely. Just go as fast as you can, and it's all in your hands. So, there's, like you said, there's no trying to be fancy with it. You just do what you can as a race car driver and what you know, which is to go fast as we ride on board with McConey. And he's going to get some help himself with a little bit of slipstream from Lodato now that he's taken his stop. And again, these cars that are in front of him are a lap down. In fact, I guess technically the ones behind him are a lap down, really. But McConey leads, and he actually lost a bit of time to Blake Reynolds in all of the weirdness that we had going on with the packs catching each other. And he does have to make sure that he doesn't run into trouble that way either.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I know that Jeff is the overall leader, but trust me, these guys are battling now, and they have a right to battle for their positions. It's not like they've got blue flags out there. They don't need to yield to Jeff McConey just because he is the overall leader. He is trying to put them a lap down, and looks like he's going to get to the inside of 2 out of the 3. I think that might be Charles Hosey there at the front of this pack in this bright orange number 100 car. So one more car for Jeff to essentially navigate and put one more lap down. Aaron Smith is now on the back straightaway, actually ahead of all of this. But remember, even though that we're seeing Jeff McConey put these cars one lap down, they do not need to pit any longer. Everybody else is going to have to come, or I should say everybody else can stay out there on the racetrack. Jeff McConey still has that one pit stop remaining.
Yeah, and it should be a relatively short one in comparison. And this is a weird place for him to be in, too, because, he could break up to the front like he's done here, but he's going to give them that slipstream. He's going to be pulling them along, helping both their pace and fuel mileage. But if he sat behind, yes, he would be hurting them, and that he's forcing them to have to take up the extra fuel. But remember, Blake Reynolds could then start to catch up to him, and Blake becomes a serious problem. So I feel like, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Jeff.
And he's not going to come down this time. So I've got my eye on Blake Reynolds. So what we thought that Blake was going to do is split up the strategy evenly, call it about 25 laps per stint out there. And he's going to go around one more to make it lap number 25. So there he is on the front straightaway. Jeff McConey still out leading the pack. Trent, I'm not sure if you've paid attention too much to Blake Reynolds back here. Do you see any world where a short stop can help make up that 12-second gap?
Well, I mean, the thing that Blake has going in his favor is that he should be good on fuel. This other pack going 35 laps, I mean, they're still going to have to work the higher engine maps. The other thing to consider is, Blake is technically running P2 right now. Jeff and Blake have not taken their last stop. So Indy is a little bit, it's a special track. One of the reasons why is because these guys can make pit stops and fuel up and not go down a lap. So it's kind of like road course rules apply for pits. You definitely don't want to be the last one to be able to make it in case of to be able to make it, like when your fuel window opens for this last window, you want to pit as early as you can so that a caution doesn't catch you out.
Yeah, essentially be the first to pit, so that way you can kind of trap everybody else if something dangerous does happen on the racetrack. So Jeff McConey on the back straightaway here, trying to do the serpentine, trying to ditch everybody. That yellow car is Aaron Smith. He was really kind of the the first of the rest of the group back here. Let's see if Jeff dives down onto pit lane. Yes, here he comes. So Jeff McConey onto pit road. I'm going to jump back on my PC here to see if Blake Reynolds is going to be hitting pit lane this time by. Looks like he's going to go out one more lap. So we're just going to be patient right here, see exactly where Jeff McConey kind of comes out on this pit stop strategy, because, Joe, I think that's going to kind of dictate in the race overall for us.
Absolutely. If I'm honest, I don't see Jeff catching him because from what we did on the math and also from just what we're seeing, it didn't look like he had enough pace to run him down just to try and catch Jeff, because he and Jeff are on the same strategy as each other. So what it comes down to is if Blake is quick enough to run him down, and he's actually pitting in this time right now off screen and coming in. So that's his last stop to take him to the finish. What the big question that we're all looking out for at this point is just, where does Jeff wind up in comparison to everybody? And I guess the answer is he's about 6 seconds ahead of Jose.
And Charles is going to have to pit because he actually has 15 laps on his stuff, and there's no way I don't see him stretching that all the way. So I see Jeff McConey about 6.5 seconds ahead of this main pack here, and that should mean that Blake Reynolds exits pit lane. He is going to miss the draft pack by about a handful of seconds, so the rest of those drivers are going to essentially have to try to hustle and peloton up towards Jeff McConey while still having to save that fuel. And I think this is a great opportunity to probably hop on with some of these onboards, follow Aaron Smith, Devin Smirker around this very, very foggy Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's listen to these Dallara IR18 Indy cars. Riding on board there, the orange number 100 of Charlie Hosey as he kind of gets himself back to this lead of the draft pack. That is Devin Smirker giving chase, Aaron Smith in that bright yellow number 1 car. A few different fuel strategies going on. Joe Peak, I'm not sure if this orange number 100 can actually make it to the end. He's got about 6 laps more fuel than everybody else in the pack.
Well, 6 laps less, if anything.
Oh, yeah, sorry, less fuel. More on the stint, I should say.
Yeah, I know it gets confusing for us in here, but let's see. He's on lap 22 of the stint now, so that means maybe about 12 more laps that he's most likely got. That's not going to get him to the end. He's got to make about 18 laps. That's just a little bit too much. I was listening in. Smirker and Smith were just talking about what they need to do to get to the end. So I think they're aware that they need to kind of each save fuel. Smith was leading that group for a while and sucking up way too much of it. So now he's dropped back. Now Smirker's kind of leading the way and helping out OC. Now, you were talking about how everybody was kind of talking to each other over the break, over the radio. I feel like they need to talk to Charles. Say, hey, Charles, you can't make it. You want to push this for us? You want to lead the way since you got to pit anyways?
I think that's what everybody else wants. I tell you what, he did not leave any room between himself and Blake Reynolds with the wall there. Now Blake Reynolds finds himself the lead of this draft pack, cuts down in front of Devin Smirker there in that number 26 car, but that is significant. Blake Reynolds can make it to the end on his fuel tank. He is on the same strategy as Jeff McConey, so he is going to be going as fast as possible. That last lap time out of Blake, a 41.1. Jeff McConey, a 41.4, and he's about 6.5 seconds up the road.
And to illustrate how much the draft is worth around here, he went from 12 seconds behind McConey to now 7 seconds behind as we get contact. And this is going to bring out the yellow.
Yeah, this is going to be a yellow flag here. Charles Hosey involved in another incident. Really unfortunate. Blake Reynolds, I think, was in the catbird seat to try to win this one. Unfortunately, some contact there with the number 100 car brings out a yellow flag. I will say that Blake was posturing down the back straightaway, but that was just an aggressive move. I didn't think that one was going to work.
No, they were trying to dance out there, unfortunately, and somebody's toes got stepped on. So, yeah, he saw Charles with a big run here.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, honestly, though, I think Charles kind of was trying for a gap that was not going to be there, if I'm honest.
That was my point, is that done so good to make a green flag this long, and he's going to try to cut back right. He's not clear. And, yeah, I understand that Blake moved over, but that was a tough one. And I do have to feel for Blake Reynolds because it almost seems like every event that he comes here and participates with RPE, it just sometimes ends in tears for him.
So this will mean only 8 cars on the lead lap to wrap this one up. And I honestly, in my opinion, all 8 of them have the ability to win this race.
100%. And I'm going to actually bring down Blake Reynolds here into the commentary booth. Blake, you got a copy on us?
Yes, sir. How we doing?
Hey, man, I feel so bad for you because it seems like every RPE event you enter, it seems to end in tears for you, man. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, Charles seems a little upset, but he ran to the back of me, and it broke my right rear so much that the wheel flew out of my hand. So I don't know what he's expecting. They're saying it's intentional. I don't really know what else I could have done.
Oh, trust me, it was not on you. We've already dissected the incident from up here. He kind of tried to go for a gap that really, it was tough on the right side there. I see the block down the back straightaway, but I kind of am agreeing with you, at least on this first part. It seems like a pretty rough one there at the end.
Yeah, it sucks. I was going I got bored about halfway through that race, and I just went hard there with Jeff, and um, me and Jeff were kind of doing the trade thing, and yeah, it just didn't end up working out. We sorry, I couldn't hear myself there talking. Um, yeah, I just tried to do something. I kind of griefed the field. I brought him off of Jeff, and he kind of took off, and I was by myself, and I had good pace by myself. I was kind of holding a snug line because it's nice and cold here, so I don't have to go to the wall. But yep, I got to the lead of the pack, and Charles kind of ran over me, and I guess whatever happened to the right rear suspension just kind of happened. So it sucks. Started the Channel 199 Sim Racing Team track racing simulation for supporting us. I feel like I repped well. Obviously, not going to get the finish here tonight.
Well, if it means anything for you, this is on a completely off-topic note. Maybe you can chuckle a little bit at it. Joe Peak and I were calling some Porsche racing back at Sonoma a few weeks ago, and he had a mispronunciation. You were actually out there racing some Porsches instead of the Blake that was out there driving the car. So, hey, if anything, maybe you can actually be a Porsche driver one day.
I do like that Porsche Cup car. It is fun. I'm also a big
It
Joe
was
Peak
in a
fan.
Porsche Cup car, too.
Joe knows I'm a big fan of his. I'm a huge fan.
Joe, you got anything to say about that?
I would love to see you out in those cars in the series we call. So, yeah, if we get you right in that, we'll try. But yeah, no, I accidentally there was another Blake, and I called your name for so many years it just kind of came out. Blake Reynolds making the move, and then I quickly realized what I had said and corrected myself.
Well, thank you.
Well, Blake, we got the lights out on the pace car here, so we'll let you go, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming and racing with us.
Yep, thank y'all, and I'm sure you're not going to hear some very happy people after this, especially toward me, so thank y'all.
Ah, dude, you're all good, man. You're always welcome here. Go have fun tonight.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was Blake Reynolds. Very unfortunate for him to kind of be taken out towards the end of this one. So, and then there were fewer. Aiden Walker is going to lead us to hopefully our last restart of the night. You can see our field has dwindled down to only a handful of cars. He stands on the gas, tries to break away from Devin Smirker to let everybody know they all came down pit road, got some fuel, got some fresh tires, and Jeff McConey, who had a 6-second lead, is probably not very happy. He's going to have to find the hard way to go win this one now.
Oh, 3 wide, and Jeff's in the middle, but he's got no place to go. Finally finds a gap through there. He's barely in the lead. He's got Smirker and Lodato on either side, though, and this, I wonder if we'll get these last few laps under green, because this looks a little bit frantic to me.
In practice earlier today, these drivers were going 4 wide casually down the straightaways. Aiden Walker thinks about making it, but now Lucas Lodato straight to the front, the air nice and clean on the front end of that number 30. Jeff McConey still sticking up top here. Devin Smirker has to fall back into third with 12 laps remaining. And now this is a little bit more reminiscent of the serpentine that we typically see here at Indianapolis. Lucas stuck on the high side. Jeff McConey taking over again.
Watch out for James Thurston back there. He's the one that's not really doing any of this. So I think he's waiting till we get to closer to the end because he sees what's happening here. He says, that seems a little dangerous, and I can see why. Here's that 4 wide.
Yeah, 4 wide into turn number 1. Looks like Devin Smirker is going to come out with the lead. Gets right in front of Lucas Lodato now. Jeff McConey, Aiden Walker, Keith Jeffrey, James Thurston, Aaron Smith, and Joseph Mealy. I know it's not a bunch of names, but it is the all-star list of names. Here comes Aiden Walker down to the inside of turn 3. He takes over for the lead.
That was impressive. 3 wide and wheels below the white line, too. That always gets a little bit risky getting close to that inside there. But it's not going to seal the deal on this one. Here we go. 4 wide again.
This is what we have been waiting for. I know that we just had to chug through a ton of laps here at Indianapolis and almost contact between the wheels of Smirker and McConey going through turn number 1. Got to be careful there, but they get away with it unscathed. Here comes a monster run from Aiden Walker. I think he's actually going to clear both of these cars by turn number 3. Oh, almost contact. There's some problems. I believe that was Smirker getting into the wall. It's just a single car. Think we're going to stay green here on the racetrack.
Did have a little bit of contact to, I think, to kind of turn him up there. I'm trying to see who it was. It looks like it was Keith Jeffrey. So I'm not sure if he'll have full pace in that car from here on out.
So unfortunate. I think that Keith was kind of pretty lucky to get that lap back. So I'm really happy to see him still sitting inside the top 5. I'm going to take a look. It looks like his car is actually okay as the serpentine down the back straightaway. Jeff McConey now looking to the inside once again.
And we know that McConey is very good about pushing his way to the front and finding his way through the pack. So he's been building up that skill all race long with the aggressiveness. He knows how to do it. I feel like he's got a good shot at it if he just puts himself in the right place at the right time. But that's easier said than done because we have so many cars up here swapping around. You can't just kind of pick, say, I'm going to be in this position on this lap. You can't control that now.
No, you really can't. I think the only thing that you can control is trying to be out front on the last lap or just try to be out front whenever you can. Once again, 3 wide going down the back straightaway between Thurston and McConey. McConey is going to have to settle back into second place. So this is the first time we've seen James really up there taking control and leading this race. And here comes Lucas Lodato to make it 3 wide once again, going down the front straightaway. A little bit of a squeeze on the outside there. Aiden Walker going to try to look down to the inside, but nowhere to go. So Lucas leads the field once again. 7 laps remaining. Joe, have you seen that Jeff McConey really likes that high entry? That's the one consistent thing I've seen out of this draft pack.
And that could help him or that could hurt him. We've seen that the momentum off the corner on the high side sometimes is a big help, but it will leave him vulnerable on the way in. People are going to try to stick their nose underneath him constantly if he tries to keep that high line on the entry, just like right here.
That was one heck of a move from Lucas Lodato. Let's see if he gets to the line to actually lead this lap here. Yes, he would. So if that was the last lap, that was one heck of a move down there in turn number 4 from Lucas. We're going to see if Jeff McConey can hang on. A little bit of contact between himself and that number 30 car in the short chute between turns 1 and 2, but they both get away. I think the dark horse that I'm looking for, that yellow number 1 car. Aaron Smith has been so patient. He hasn't even involved himself in this draft pack yet. When does he show up to the party?
Exactly, and that's what I was saying earlier. The drivers that are letting them fight, probably on the smarter side on this one, because we've seen, 8 cars that Jeff passed or something like that, or 10 cars? No, it was Blake, I guess, that he just blasted back through the field in a lap and a half. So, and we only have 7 left right now, so you could absolutely come from very back of this group up to the front with precious few laps left, even with 5 to go. If you're Mealy right now, you still got a shot.
I think the one caveat, though, is that when Blake Reynolds was able to do that, everybody else had a little bit of a different mentality, right? They were kind of in that fuel save mode, and now everybody has their elbows out trying to go for the win. Coming up, 4 laps remaining. It is James, Jeff, and Lucas 3 wide as they go over the yard of bricks, and Lucas once again on the inside there in turn number 1. That is a comfortable place to be, and Joe Peak, he's actually put himself in that position for several laps in a row.
Yeah, just 10 miles to decide this one now after we've been going for so long, and you've so got to keep your wits about you in this one. Yes, you're anxious to make moves, but you have to be strategic about it. Oh, and into the wall. I think Jeff just clipped it.
Yeah, just barely touched it in that short chute between 3 and 4, but hopefully no damage on the car. 3 laps remaining. Lucas Lodato making the aggressive move. Aiden Walker is going to make it 4 wide going into turn number 1. He has got the shallow line. He's going to try to come out of the lead here in that short chute, go around turn number 2. Looks like he will be able to clear that number 30 on the outside. Jeff McConey is going to be stuck sitting in that draft. I think this is Lucas making it 3 wide up in the middle, coming to 2 laps to go. Oh, man, this is going to get busy.
And now Keith Jeffrey and Aaron Smith are getting closer. This is their go time now. They're trying to get up and involved. And yeah, I think you're right. It is going to be a little tougher with everybody fighting so much harder. But there you go. I mean, he's already up to 5th rather, and was close to getting 4th there.
And Jeff McConey is now going to have to be the one that comes from the back. I see a few fans in the chat. I see Greg McConey over there, Tina Lodato, also Blake Reynolds after he hopped out of the car here is now watching the stream, trying to pump up his teammates, trying to get everybody over across to the finish line. It is James Thurston down low, Lucas Lodato up top, and now Keith Jeffrey makes his presence known. He's that black and red car on the bottom.
Remember, this is going to be the white flag this next time by. This is going to be wild to see who comes away with it.
White flag here at Indianapolis for the RPE Indy 500. Jeff McConey through the middle, a little bit of contact. He hangs on to it in turn number 1. He is going to be on the top side of the racetrack. Aiden Walker takes advantage down below. It is all a fight between Lucas Lodato and James Thurston right now as the Serpentine. They're actually 2 wide on the back straightaway. Contact with Jeff McConey. That's going to take him and Keith Jeffrey out of this race. Who is going to win it off of turn number 4? It is James Thurston currently leading with Lucas Lodato in second place. Aiden Walker sitting in the slipstream. It's going to be a draft battle down to pit road. James Thurston is going to come away your winner as he's sideways across the finish line. Everybody, carbon parts flying. What a way to end it. I think I see 3/100ths of a second to James Thurston.
Unbelievable. They're at the end, sideways across the line, and he still comes away with it. You can't get much closer than that for the win.
Oh my goodness, here is that replay. So James had control. He chose the inside line. He actually got clipped, I think, twice. Once from Lucas right here, and then here comes the big hit from Aiden Walker. I think Aiden just barely mistimed it and sideways across the finish line. Joe, I thought he finished sideways with the Racing with Raja event. He's sideways finishing the RPE 500 event too, but he wins this one officially.
Yeah, thankfully the transponder was fully ahead of his rivals this time. And my goodness, I've never seen an Indy finish quite like that.
Holy smokes is what I like to say. Let's take a look at our official results out here. We only had a handful actually finish the 500 miles of racing, but it was James Thurston winning by 31 thousandths of a second back here. And you see Aiden Walker crossing the line. He was actually only 47 thousandths of a second behind our overall leader, 1/100th of a second behind what is second place. Aaron Smith comes home with a 4th place finish. I mean, just look at how close all front 4 were. 800ths of a second between all of those IR18 cars. Joseph Mealy rounding out the top 5 here. Jeff McConey, I think that he's going to look back on this one and say, oh man, what if it went green? I had the strategy to win this one. Unfortunately, he falls back to 6th place. Keith Jeffrey, he kept chugging along, and you know what? He gets our Dory Award, Joe, because he was a lap down for so long and then finally got that lap back to finish in 7th place here. Devin Smirker had a great run in 8th. Blake Reynolds to finish 9th after having that late race incident. Charles Hosey was involved in several, finished inside the top 10 as well.
You see Presley Sora finishing in 11th, probably disappointing for a Club Indiana driver, as Kanchan was 12th with Knudsen in the 13th spot and Campos P14. Matt Brewer wound up only completing 60 laps today, winding up in 15th. Corey Vervinkt unfortunately 16th, and Cameron Bidwell in 17th. Our pole sitter had to settle for P18 today. Alex Crow, who we had a chat with earlier, Trey Patton 19th, and Kyle Grzek in 20th.
And over across the page, Nikhil Kopkar, Rick Ravin, Paul Gibson, Zach Palmetier, Alex Ellis, Connor Parise all had issues. I want to say thank you to everybody, though, that came out and raced with us. I know it was a little bit of a long slog once we had a few of those cars kind of drop out by the wayside from early incidents, but the racing was excellent, definitely there towards the end. I'm going to bring in, first of all, our race winner. I'm going to kind of make it a group party down here in just a little bit because there was only a handful of you guys left at the end. But so, James, I think the last time that we talked to you, you were sideways across the finish line with the Racing with Raja race, but you didn't actually win that one. This time you're sideways and actually won it.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe I won the Indy 500 for Roush, dude.
Dude, I know how much this means to you. Yeah, talk about it.
Oh my God, like there with what was it, like 20 something to go? I didn't think we had a shot because Jeff had pushed when we were all saving, and he ended up getting a massive lead. And then we got that yellow there at the end, bunched everybody back up, and we got to go for some proper racing there. And that was a hell of a last few laps. I mean, it was just dogfighting every lap. I was just hoping I couldn't get in a wreck there, and I was that you could see me kind of stand back when they were 4 or 5 wide going into one. I was just waiting for it to happen, and then we got down to it. There was a couple laps to go, and I'm like, yeah, I better be leading this thing because if a yellow comes out, it's over. So I got to get to the front.
Well, you got to the front. You got the win. I know that you had some teammates out there that you were probably in communication with all race long. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thanks to Murphy Esports, Cardano. Yeah, I mean, Devin and Joseph were my teammates this race. They were great. We were just bouncing data off each other the entire race, having a great old time out there. And I mean, man, it's just a really fun race. I can't believe I came out on top of this.
Well, James, thanks so much for racing, and I'm sure we'll see you at the next one, pal.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Well, that was James Thurston, your overall race winner, and going to bring Lucas Lodato down here in the chat. Joe Peak, I believe you're standing by with our second place finisher.
Indeed, Lucas, commiserations from a fellow Cincinnatian on that one. I mean, looking at it now, what do you feel like you would have done differently coming down to the finish, or is it something where you feel like you wouldn't have changed a thing?
It was a good run. I don't know. I think that if we had the white line rule in effect like there is in real life and iRacing, then I definitely would have been able to get a better toe, but I just didn't want to go as far down as he went. Honestly, I didn't want to get baited into hitting the attenuator. So I stayed that about car width above him and just didn't get a toe for a good, I don't know, probably 300 feet there, and that probably did the difference. But I mean, I'm not upset about it. I'm glad that caution came down and kind of saved us. I think that all of us that were saving, I know that I would have made it no matter what, but I think that the highest I could have gotten was third probably out of that, unless if Jeffrey somehow ran out on his own up there leading. He had the win wrapped up in a bow, but it's okay. I'm happy with second place, honestly. I'm not going to complain too much.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hard fought for one. I mean, considering the rest of the race, too, it seemed like you were trying to play it pretty darn smart. Were you holding back a bit in the earlier stages? Because we saw you charge up at least once or twice, but then for most of the time, it felt like you were kind of hanging back.
Yeah, I was just trying to build I really wish that we would have got a green flag run, because I feel like with us working together the way that we were in the back with Alex before he got knocked out of the race, and then again with Aiden there, we sort of teamed up mid race. But if we would have been able to get some green flag runs and green flag pit stops and go through the pit phases, then I think that we would have been able to sort of gap the field, or at least show that we would have built that fuel and tire offset. But I was just kind of hanging out. Every time we would get a caution, would be right when I was about to push and try to go up to the front. Like literally 2 or 3 times there, I was like, as I was switching it to map one, the caution came out. So, um, it is what it is. It was a very circumstantial race. It was a very weird race. It was a lot of fun though. I highly enjoyed it.
Well, lastly, have you managed to find all the pieces of the car in the grandstands yet?
Yeah, the car is okay, but I don't know if I could say the same for the fans that are out there. So we might have to find all the tarps in the greater Indianapolis area and just cover up the whole front stretch.
That sounds like a good plan to me. Well, congratulations on second. It sounds like you're pretty pleased, and you certainly gave us some entertainment.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun that it's a much different track temp and conditions than all the 500s, the official 500s have been. So it was fun to actually get to really like just be aggressive and make moves and make them stick. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. That was Lucas Lodato finishing P2, Joey.
Yeah, and I think we've got a couple more that are going to be joining us here. Aiden Walker is now down in the commentary booth with a third place finish. Congrats on the third, Aiden.
Thank you. That final lap was a little crazy, but I mean, there's definitely going to be a little bit of netcode and things, but just not really happy with myself what happened coming to the line. I feel like that would have been fine. It's just I didn't turn down enough to not hit Thurston. It was like a weird bit of netcode also with how it just spun. Usually that would just break your front wing, but all that. Can I comment about the incident with that caused that final yell?
Of course, man. Yes.
I look back at the replay with that entire incident right there. It looked extremely intentional by Blake there. I mean, he got hit and then just kept the wheel pretty much to the right the entire time, which, I mean, I was gonna be okay. I mean, yeah, it's frustrating to have a very bad strategy and things, but I was gonna be okay with the end morph, but just that kind of was really dumb about that. It gave us an opportunity, but just, I mean, it's not the greatest way to finish
No,
a race.
yeah, and I'll jump in here because we do have a feed that you guys don't necessarily see. We've actually got his webcam feed, and we had it pulled up, and it looked like it actually yanked the steering wheel out of his hand.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of what we saw over here. But yeah, it was kind of an odd incident down there on the back straightaway.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of contact, but he was also blocking at the same time for some reason. But then on the final lap on the backstretch, I moved up trying to keep McCoy to make McCoy go on the inside, and then again a little bit of a weird netcode again where kind of just it sent him for the wall for some reason. It like made him hop the car. Usually, like I said, if it was regular, it would have been fine. But I mean, I'll take the blame on that. Overall, it was a pretty fun race. Just kind of wish we had a few more green flag stops and things. Felt like every time we would get to the point where we were like right at 5 laps of fuel left, caution. 5 laps of caution. It's just like it's frustrating, but overall, really fun event.
I got to ask you because we were talking beforehand. Not only do you do the esports stuff here, but you do Legends racing. Anybody that's watching out there, where can they find you? Do you have a website or maybe a schedule that they can actually find you?
I think we should be running mostly. I don't really have a website or any of that. I do have a social media account on Instagram that has and Twitter that have
What's the
all
handle?
hold on, I think let me look at my Instagram one. I keep forgetting the Instagram one because you always have that one person that steals your username and things. So my Instagram is Aiden Walker _93. I post whenever I'm on one of my race days. I race at Newport Speedway and Lonesome Pine. I'll make a few trips probably to Nashville Fairgrounds this year, but it's going to be mainly running at those two tracks this year. Lonesome Pine is going to be a lot more common than Newport. We're only running once a month at Newport. So if you guys ever want to go out to the track, it supports the track, and who knows, you might be able to meet me.
Well, that was Aiden Walker, always one of the fastest when it comes to Indianapolis and especially on the sim, finishing third here. And I've actually brought Jeff McConey down here into the booth as well. So, Jeff, I'm going to take this interview with you because I know you quite well. I don't think you were too happy to see that late race yellow and then a little bit of contact there at the end. But, I mean, holy smokes, you put on a show, dude.
I appreciate it. If you can't win it, I was glad I could at least lead the most laps. I led 102 of them. Yeah, I don't know what the strategy was. I don't like playing those strategy games 100 laps to go. So I was like, I'm just gonna run it. If they back off, they back off, whatever. And then I saw them all backing off, and they were backing off like 2 seconds a lap, and I was like, that's insane. But it's not enough. We you would have had to save to cut out a full stop. It was something like 20 laps of fuel. I was like, there's no way it's going to work. We all have to stop twice. So I just stayed in it. Blake saw what was happening, and he tried to undercut me. And then he just got stuck out. And so I was like 15 seconds ahead of him. And then I was 30 seconds ahead of the pack. I came all the way around. I was lapping him. But the whole time I was thinking, I have to be missing something. Like, I was sitting in a Discord call, and I'm like, I have to be missing something here because there's no way they're all wrong and I'm right. But I just kept doing the math over and over. I'm like, there's no way that they can catch me unless something crazy happens. And then Blake got to the front of that second pack with about 18 to go. And I had 7 seconds on them. And if they're within a second of me, they can get my draft. And so I was basing it off of 6 seconds. And I'm like, they have to pull 0.3 a lap every single lap to catch me at the end. And they started doing it. They were pulling 0.4. So I saw that and I'm like, okay, they're going to catch me at this rate unless something happens and they slow down. And then there was the caution and everything was out the window. And yeah, Aiden, I was right where I wanted to be at the end. I was trying everything I could, finding a way to be the leader off 4 and maintain it, and I couldn't find it. So I was right where I wanted to be. I was going to be third in line coming off of 3 in that short shoot. I was all set up. I was all ready to go. And then Aiden, in my opinion, threw a block, and his opinion gave me the inside. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It happens. It's racing. But yeah, it was just a crazy, crazy run to the end. But led a bunch of laps. I had the race-winning strategy, so that was pretty cool. And I had a ton of fun. And I still come out with 6th place after all that. I can't be too mad. It's the one that got away for sure, but definitely still a lot of fun.
Well, and Jeff, we've got one more interview that we need to cover here in the next few minutes. But before I let you go, I talked about it briefly. You are starting your real-world racing career. Where can people find you at? Where can they follow along with everything that you're doing now?
Well, I'll try and keep it short, but yeah, I'm doing some real-world ARCA racing. It's insane, crazy. I'm running with Club Racing, and I don't think I've announced it yet, but I'm probably doing 2 more races this year in August, and I can't say when the other one is because I give it away. But yeah, I'm going to be doing some more races. I've got sponsors on board lined up, so we'll get all that announced soon. So I will be back in the car again after Nashville, where we finished 12th. But yeah, just my social medias and McConey Setup Shop pages. Huge thank you to everyone that was on board. Chastity Tucker Realty, Big Fish Barbecue, 4K Motorsports, the McConey Setup Shop, McConey Entertainment teams. Everyone that helps make this possible. Huge thank you to them. And I hope I put on a good show. I appreciate the broadcast from you guys, and it was a lot of fun driving a Ford a couple weeks ago in real life and getting to run actually a Roush engine in the ARCA series, and it was a ton of fun there, and I'm excited to do it again at probably 2 more times this year, quote unquote.
Well, I know that buddy Brayton Laster was sharing some dash panel pictures from some Roush racing parts, so I'm sure you'll get hooked up with him out there. So, Jeff, thank you so much for coming out and racing with us, and we'll see you next time.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for getting me 12th place at Nashville. I appreciate that for sure with Roush, and thanks for having me out tonight. It was a ton of fun.
That was Jeff McConey, finishing a little bit further down, and I think that we've got one more interview that's going to be joining us. Keith Jeffrey is now in the broadcast booth, standing by with Joe Peak.
Indeed, Keith. First of all, I mean, kudos on gutting through what must have been a very frustrating middle of the race, a lap down to everybody. Were you nervous that you were never going to get it back?
Definitely. I mean, partially my own fault. I probably got a little too aggressive there.
for that early. I was just trying to put my car on a spot in line with guys that I trusted. And I was going to try and run the top there, and the guy took the line away right at the last second. I lost the front wing. So I put myself behind the 8-ball. And yeah, it was a long race, but I know how these things go. I knew if I just made the right decisions, I'd have a shot. And luckily I gave myself a shot. So that's all you can ask for here.
Exactly. Now, speaking of that shot, we come down to those last 10 laps. You're in that frantic group. What's going through your head as everybody's dicing up there?
Honestly, I was just getting mad at myself because I felt like I just kept missing it, an inch here or there, and I could never quite get the run to get up and try and clear it and get that fresh air. So clean air, I was just always off just a little bit. I've been out of these cars for a while, and I think if I could go back right now, things might be a little different. But here we are. That's how it went, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, 7th place after all is said and done, still pretty impressive in a race of this length. Are you looking forward to some more of the RPE events coming up in the future?
Yeah, I've always wanted to run them. This was the first one I could actually make. Some of the off-road stuff I've always wanted to do. But yeah, I had a blast. I'll definitely be back. Hopefully, a couple of steps higher next time.
All right. Well, excellent work, Keith, and again, great race today.
Appreciate it.
As Keith Jeffrey finishing P7 today, about half a lap shy, Joey, of seeing the checkered flag.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to our entire team behind the scenes and also all of our competitors, right? We had, it was nearly, gosh, I don't remember how many signed up, and then we had to whittle it down to top split, and then we finally had our full field here at Indianapolis. So I just want to say thank you to all of the competitors. Remember, we can't do this without you guys coming out and providing this awesome racing action. And then, of course, thanks to Roush Performance for all of their support. It wouldn't be possible without our team behind the scenes, as I was just mentioning, Jack Roush Jr., Josh Massive, and JP Roush. And, of course, also thanks to the broadcast team here tonight. That includes Eddie Smith, Joe Peak, and the engineer, race control, iron hand of justice behind the scenes, Trent Brown in race control. Thank you for joining us tonight. Catch the real Indy 500 this Sunday from IMS. And of course, remember to follow along with all of our Roush Performance Esports social media channels and also Roush Performance themselves. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you at the checkered flag.